Great with Dave Fields and Eddie Gallagher. Today we have an amazing guest who I've been stoked to have on here for I think going on a couple months now. I think I've talked Dave Dzerian off about this man until now. Now we have him on. Drago Dzerian. I'm excited to have him on for a multitude of reasons. One being we just talked about, when I came into the teams, there was certain names that popped up as I was coming through the teams as a new guy that had like legendary status. They had these stories that you heard about, and Drago, your name came up multiple times in stories that are passed around to the community. And it was you had a legend status in my purview. But one of the other reasons that I'm excited to have you on is we didn't know each other when I was in the teams and you were in the teams. It was we probably saw each other
in the sunset of my career.
But when I was going through that that hot mess near the end of my career, there were two individuals that came out and supported us, and did everything they could to support me and my family, and that's Drago and his wife Rachel through the Navy SEALs Fund. And the amount of gratitude and that I have for what you two did for my family, the support that you gave us, it not only was it was a picture perfect of what the teams are about, what I grew up in the teams, which is brotherhood and loyalty and sticking to your teammates, because at the time there was a lot of people not supporting and there's a lot of lies going around, and you and Rachel didn't listen to any of it. You stood up for what was right, and we to this day we're beyond grateful for what you did. But not only that, we started a nonprofit, and we base everything off of how you and Rachel run your nonprofit, right? Which is you guys, all your T's are crossed, I's are dotted all the time. You do what you know is right, and that's few and far between.
I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. But please also remember that we stepped in into that case because it was right thing to do. I just could not imagine how somebody, because by this time you were already a legend in the teams. You were already known the teams for your prowess, for your deployments. I don't know many people with that many deployments and that many combat experience in the teams, even today. There's few and in between. So for me, when this case came down, I just could not believe that there's some people who could betray a SEAL community like these guys. Some of these guys did, and turn on their own chief. And some of these guys had no combat experience or very little. I just could not, I couldn't imagine before that somebody with no combat or very little combat experience can go to chief around 10, 12 combat deployments and tell chief that's, hey, chief, this is very dangerous. We shouldn't be doing it because we can get killed. I was like, that motherfucker is in the long line of work. He doesn't belong in the teams. So that was first thing that got me. And, I heard about your deployments even before that. So I always wanted to meet you. I was already fading from SEAL teams. So yeah, that's when this case came down, we stepped in because it was the right thing to do. And I tell you, the techniques used on you by NCIS, this is something that when I start reading about this case and getting a little bit more familiarized, I couldn't sleep at night because all these memories from the communist prison, from the method used by communist secret police on me and my fellow political prisoners in Poland, just came floating. And I say, well, I understand that it can happen in a communist, socialist state, but we are in America. That should never happen. This is not how you treat people and not how you treat the war heroes. What the fuck? I mean, that's just like, I couldn't sleep at night sometimes. You can ask Rachel. I just sit down and it's like, I just can't believe this is happening.
And that's one of the other reasons I'm excited to have you on, because not only is your career in the SEAL teams, legendary and has been remarkable, but I didn't know anything about your story before that, how you grew up, and everything. And, now that you have a book, the Pledge to America, One Man's Journey from Political Prisoner to U.S. Navy SEAL, I've read up on it. And I actually, after I got out, I definitely familiarized myself with your story and what you went through because of all the points you were bringing up during that time. But your story before you joined the teams is remarkable as well. Like the journey that you had from where you grew up to where you ended up in America, and then actually serving in the SEAL teams, fighting, the wars in Iraq, to what you're doing now is, it's beyond remarkable. And that's why I want to go through that as, we have this conversation and have you sort of describe, how you grew up and how you sort of ended up where you're at now.
I appreciate that. There is one thing, one point I would like to make. The second I landed in America, my odds were on the same level as any other kid, any other person in America. I was no longer poor. I was no longer oppressed. I was no longer in disadvantage. I was in America. So, if you look at American people, some of them are poor. Some of them were poorer than I was, but their spirit. And so when I landed, all the disadvantages of my upbringing, my growing up, when thrown away. I was on the same plane like any other American. I was just poorer. I didn't speak English. But this country allows you to be whatever you are able to be. There is no restrictions. There is nothing to stop you. If I decide to be this and I have the abilities, I can be that. There is nobody comes up, well, you didn't belong to the party, or you don't have enough social points here. That doesn't happen in America. So all these disadvantages that I had went away the second I landed in America. Then I was on the same level like any other American, and I succeed like many other Americans do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kids nowadays that have grown up in America, do you think they don't have that perspective because they don't really know what it is to have a disadvantage towards you?
Well, I don't think people think this way on this level. In America, everybody is just American. I do the best I can. They don't think about other things. My concern is more about the younger generation that is being now indoctrinated into Marxist ideologies in socialism and communism. These are very dangerous ideologies that are marked by mass graves and millions of victims around the globe, not just in the one country, but around the globe. So they don't know about it. And that this is something that I think is important that we start educating people that they look nice on the paper, that is the Marxism or socialism or communism, but so does the Snow White story and other stories for children, which you would think this nice story about Snow White, but you wouldn't try to implement it in the real life, right?
Yeah.
So this was important that we actually start teaching younger generation and educate them about the dangers of these different ideologies.
I think there's no better person to actually educate people on the dangers of Marxism and socialism than someone who has lived it.
I grew
right?
up.
Yeah.
I grew up in it.
You grew up in it, and you know the differences between growing up in it and then coming to America, which is why I find it interesting that people that come from these socialist countries, then they come to America, they're the ones who have 100 times greater appreciation for what America is and what it stands for than the actual individuals who grow up in America, because it's no fault of their own. They don't know any different. They're like, I've grown up in America, and they sort of get this entitled attitude. Some of them do, of like, oh no, this is what I deserve. This is, I deserve this freedom. I deserve, I should be getting things handed to me. And
I see it as a perfectly fine. There's not bad attitude, because what you did, what I did, what we as a society do, we protect our society. We want them to flourish, and we don't want them to worry about the war, about Iraq, thousands of miles away. And when people sometimes came to me and and sometimes they come and they say, hey, you know what, these guys, like, they don't care about this war. They don't know anything. They don't even know where Iraq is. They just, like, they live their lives and they don't care. But then I'm thinking, like, isn't what we want?
Yeah.
We want our citizens to worry about the war somewhere else. We want them to be aware that there is a war, right? That we are fighting to protect our country, our interests. But we really don't want them to worry. We want them to live their lives like there was no war. That tells me that I'm doing a good job, that these guys are up there and these guys are doing what they do, they and just enjoy their lives.
Yeah.
That's our job, to protect our society so they can enjoy their lives, they can set the course that they want, not what some foreign power comes in and tells them how to live their lives. But again, let me make one point here. This is very important. People think, and I hear every time, communist countries are bad. They are bad. But they need to understand that none of the countries we talk about behind Iron Curtain, none of these countries in Eastern Europe were ever communist state. They were all socialist state. They were not communists. They were run by communists, hardcore communists like my father, but they were not communist countries. They were socialist states. And this is what kind of worries me here, that people make this distinction between, well, the communism we know maybe is bad, but socialism is great. That's a very dangerous way of thinking because, again, if they know that the atrocities and they know what happened behind Iron Curtain, but they just they think that it's just not the socialists, they were just communist countries. But in socialism is better. It's not. They were socialist states. So.
And you said your dad, so growing up, you grew up in Poland?
I grew up in Poland. I was born in Poland. I grew up until I escaped in 1984 to the West, to America. But yes, I grew up in Poland, and my father was a hardcore communist and a high-ranking government official at the time. So, I have a chance to see the peek behind the curtain, what is going on, and how that socialist state operated by communists and socialists, Marxists, whole plethora of these scumbags, how it works, how it operates.
How old were you when you escaped?
I was 24 years old.
So 24.
Yes.
So from the time you were born to your 24, that's what you experienced.
So I spent all my young years, my youth, in socialist state. I refer to it sometimes too as a communist because everybody says communist. It's so ingrained in our brains, but technically, people need to understand they were not communist countries. They were socialist states. And but I think nowadays there are forces here, even in America, that try to kind of like separate these things and blend a little bit the understanding and difference between socialism and communism. And this is something that we need to be aware, but kids need to be learned in schools because they are future of America. If they are enamored with these dangerous ideologies and don't understand that they are dangerous and how dangerous they are, that's what will derail one day America, because they are the future of our country. These young people will eventually take over the helm and they will steer our country. We don't want them to steer it into a abyss of socialism.
Can you go into some detail or give some examples of like growing up in Poland during that time and just how you and your family lived, and especially with your dad being a hardcore communist,
right? How
sort of that played a part in growing up there?
Yeah. So absolutely. And there is you will see the huge contrast when my father was with us and after my father left to build his own life with the Communist Party. So until when I was born, everything was nice and smooth. And we were poor, but we were not more poor than than some people here in America. That we were we didn't have many things. We didn't have, but so people don't have it here. That was not the biggest problem. And when I was when our father was still with us, we were almost immune to any justice system, to any prosecution. I'll give you an example. I burned a wheat field of our neighbors, just playing with the matches, and just by the time the firefighters came in, this acres of this wheat field was gone. So what would you do in America? I would just investigate, find people who actually burn your field and try to recover the damages. The Christianity is not compatible with socialism, with communism, with Marxist and Engels teachings. So he said, absolutely, we're not going to church. So my mom left, I think, because we were living on the first floor. Mm-hmm. My grandmother grabbed me, opened the window, just passed me like a football through the door. He couldn't stop my grandmother in the house. My mother was already one of those outside. So once I got passed to outside, we all went to church. I don't remember much from the church. I think for me, because my grandmother was so strict Catholic that it actually turned me off to it. We had to go every day, every night, every Sunday to church. Every night we pray. I was fine with praying, but going to church, it was just boring. At the time, Mass in Poland was conducted in Latin language. Yep. So I didn't understand shit out of it. So I was there sitting. I was bored out of my mind. So I found the game. I find once every while, I didn't understand then why, but once every while, everybody in the church get on his knees. So I figured out how just go around and jump on this old woman back and just wrestle with her. I think those, we play like this between the kids. So I just full sprint and dove on somebody who were just random people kneeling. And we both tumbled to the ground. People yell, scream. They pull my mom and me and my grandmother out of the church. Just I say, hey, you need to leave. But I thought it was fun. And then but this is when you do something in excess too much, eventually you get tired of it. And this is what happened to me. I understand that God is good, that we are growing as a Christian, with Christian values. It is important to learn about it. But, sitting in the church, somebody is yakking about something that you don't understand because that's not your language. It was really not speaking to me. So when we got older, every time my grandmother came visit, we knew we had to tighten up and pretend we enjoyed the church, which we didn't at the time. Yeah. But it changed later when I started understanding more. But
I had very similar experience, because I grew up, Catholic. My dad was a very strict Irish Catholic. We went to church every Sunday. The priest was always held in high regard. My dad would wait outside after just to shake the priest's hand. But for us growing up, I was like, I hate it. I hate coming here. I hate being told to stand, kneel, sit. I don't know, why are we doing all this?
Yeah, people singing songs that I don't even like the melody. I didn't like the melody even. I was like this. I like music, but I was not a big fan of music. I'm still, till today, I'm musically deaf. So music really doesn't do much to me. I see people shaking to the music and doing all kinds of stuff, but the dancing, they call it dancing, but really does not speak to me. So I was just, like you said, I was just sitting there and getting pissed off and just thinking, what will I do as soon as I leave the church? Yep. So when I was older, we figured out our mom was not so strict. I say, look, this is what it is. This is why it is important that we keep the faith in God. This is why God is important in our life. And I was fine with it, but when my grandmother came in, it became like a Christian Nazi state in my house. It was like, you go to church, you do this. Basically, we were out of church in the house, living as in the church. The praying, the Christian songs and everything. She was singing all day long, and I getting pissed about it. I was like, Grandma, you can sing it, but can you sing it quietly? It was getting to me. But I'm talking about it because the transformation that took place later, when I start understanding the faith, how important the faith is, and how important it is to base your moral values on something that is immutable, something that does not change, something that the most important moral values, because at that time also, when I became a little bit older, I'll come back to that age, to that time of my life in a second, but I just want to diverse a little bit. It is I learned too that how dangerous is so-called relative morality. It is not very well understood here in the West because people are free, they never think about it, and there was never issue until recently started surfacing. Relative morality, the way my mom described to me, and my grandmother, is that you base your values, your moral values, on ideology, like especially on the politician, a politician's beliefs, politician's understanding of ideology or something, and you subscribe to it. And then the most dangerous part of it is, what if that that politician changes or he changes his value? Then some people will just step away, but many people will follow it up and will change with the politician. So now this is how the euthanasia, the Holocaust could happen in Germany. Please remember that Germany in 1920s, 30s were the most civilized nation in Europe. And look how they were swayed to, within short span of Adolf Hitler and his socialist party, National Socialist. Hitler was socialist, by the way. So if his National Socialist party, people sway to accept euthanasia, accept Holocaust, accept imprisoning people. That was done in the name of the state, good for the state. Those are not Christian values. They were values that Adolf Hitler and his party were able to impose on society, and many people subscribed to it. Those who didn't, they were, of course, we know what happened to them. They were ostracized, they were minimized, and they were, or very often they were killed. And this is not different than in different socialism. In the socialism of Joseph Stalin, same thing happened. Maybe more, a little bit more drastic, a little bit more perverted, and a little bit more on bigger scale. Because concentration camps actually came from the West, from the Gulag prison system in the Soviet Union at the time. Mm-hmm. So this is how dangerous it is to not have moral values based in faith and based in something that is immutable. Because if you mutate, what tells you that tomorrow you will not accept killing people, and that's very important. So coming back now to when I was a little kid, when the church was okay. I didn't mind it, but became nuisance to me every time my grandmother showed up. So that was just the time. But also, that's like funny story. So my father's parents. My grandmother from my paternal side, she knew how dangerous socialism is. And I described this in my book, The Pledge to America, that some of these incidents. And she was very adamant that you do not subscribe to the values, to believe of your dad and other communists, because they change. They are dangerous. And as you know, I was kid. I was at that time, I think I was 4 or 5 years old kid. I was still learning how to pray. And she was I was still learning the words, how to pray. And she was always telling me that these people are evil. They are dangerous. These people are devils. At that time, as a kid, for me, the devil was the only I knew was the little dude with the horns, the tail, breathing fire and stuff. So I was like, Grandma, so all these communists, do they have tails and horns? She's like, no, they don't have they do actually, but you don't see it. But so how can you tell which one is devil or not? Like, is that devil? Yep. So I don't see the tail and the horns. I say, well, they hide it. They hide it, but they are as evil. How can you tell that they are evils? By their deeds. If they kill people, if they advocate to kill other people. And, I was listening to it for me, like 3-4 years old kid, it was like fantasy. But I remember the words, her voice very clearly today. But they say if they advocate to kill people, they arrest, they jail people. And what do they kill them for? For believing that differently, for wanting to live life differently. And that's how you can tell evil people. Didn't do much explanation to me, but made my father overheard it, and I remember it was big screaming and yelling in the house. It's just like, you don't. It was his own mother. It was like his own mother. She said, so he don't ever teach my son anything else but the good thing about socialism, or you'll never see him again. That's you will never ever talk to him about socialism, a socialist party. If you do, you just describe it in the nice terms.
Do you think that your dad was so loyal, like to the regime, because he wanted to protect you guys and be like, hey, this is or was he like, nope, this is the way? Like,
no, I think he was just enamored with socialism. He was when he was very young, he was indoctrinated to it, because remember, after Second World War, the socialism was brought on Russian bayonets in Poland. There was not, there were elections, but we know that now, we're looking at the documents, looking in the back, we know there were fraudulent elections. So when they installed socialism, all the schools and all the teachers who did not subscribe to it, they were either they lost their job or they went up in prison. So my father, he was only exposed to socialism, the benefits and goods of socialism and communism. So I think he really believed in it. And there is a stage, like in anybody's life, that if you indoctrinate somebody into something, it is very hard later to unteach, to change the mind that there's something not good. Even if you present the facts that people will not accept, that this is a fact, they will still cling to their beliefs. And I think the best description that describe this process is Yuri Bezmenov. I don't know if you guys heard about this guy.
No.
Yuri Bezmenov, they said he is a KGB agent. He was not KGB agent. He was working for KGB, but he was a journalist. But his job was subversion, subvert other countries. And he described the subversion process very well. There are certain stages of the subversion.
Oh, I've heard. No, I do.
Yes.
So I've heard the interview he's done.
Yes.
Yes.
And eventually he will tell you that the last stages of that subversion is that no matter what facts you bring in front of these believers, they will just not accept it. They will not buy it. They will just not believe in it, and you can't change the course of that subversion then. That thing is pretty much done. Only, I think, taking up the arms and I think killing evil people can change the course of action then. But, let's hope we never get to this stage in America.
I definitely suggest for listeners, if you have not heard that Yuri Bezmenov's interview,
we could maybe post it on
the we should put that on there. And that interview was done, I believe, in the 80s?
In 1980s.
Yeah.
And this is something like a lot of people, when I talk to, try to explain them, I heard about it, but what's a big deal? The guy lives today and he listens to what is happening and just make comments on it. I say, wait, no, the guy doesn't live here, doesn't live anymore. He died decades ago. What he described decades ago, now you think, you see it, that I'm talking to a person, that it is happening here. But no, he doesn't make a comments on what is happening today. He is dead. The guy died decades ago. He was telling in his lectures what could happen if you are not careful. And now you just
he was
yourself.
If I remember correctly, because he was going through the 4 phases.
Yes.
I believe, and the interviewer was like, "Well, is it what phase are what's happening?" He's like, "It's already happening now. We're already intruding on you guys. We're already working it." And that was in the 80s.
That was in the 80s.
He's like, "It's just," and he called it. He's like, "It's just going to get worse." And
especially now the new warfare, new tactics, you do not have to actually storm the beaches of another beaches or beaches.
Beaches.
However,
I always have these problems. So you don't have to storm the beaches.
Beaches.
Often.
Hey, it may work either way.
Well,
we're gonna go check out the bitches after this.
So funny.
yeah, but so you don't have to storm the beaches of another country to conquer the country, to ruin, to destroy it, or take over. Now, imagine with these powerful entities above the pan-national, powerful socialist entities, they can purchase a politician, or they can purchase many politicians. They can purchase a party.
Yep.
And what do you do then? That party will, on behalf of our enemies, will ruin our country. Why do you have to storm the beaches when you can open the borders and flood the country with people with no loyalty to the country?
Yep.
I tell you, this is the biggest error that Joseph Stalin made in Poland and Czechoslovakia. He did it in his republics, in the small states that Russia conquered, and the Bolsheviks later incorporated into the Soviet Union. So he basically removed the most educated population from one of these, I would call it states, but they were republics in the parts of the Soviet Union, and moved them to another place. And then he flooded that republic with people who have no loyalty to that republic. So they just became part of the Soviet Union. They didn't even know they are no longer loyal to that former country, which became a republic. So if Stalin did the same thing in Poland or Czechoslovakia, instead of using pure terror, today there wouldn't be a Poland. Today there wouldn't be Czech. There wouldn't be Romania or Hungary. He didn't do it because he did not understand the social science like we do understand today. At that time, he was just everything was based on terror, and that worked only till degree, to a certain level, but eventually, as you can see, the East European countries freed themselves. They had enough of it, and they raised up and stood up to socialism, and they are no longer socialist states. A matter of fact, that's today, Poland has one of the strongest economy once they kick socialism to the curb. Putin, I hear people calling him an idiot, stupid, that the guy has no idea what he's doing. Well, idiot and stupid guy who has no idea wouldn't be able to rebuild Russia and the Russian Empire in that very quick way. I mean, within decades, Russia is threatening us in Africa, in Asia, and the other countries. Stupid man cannot do that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be able to do it. We need to make sure, we need to pay respect. I mean, I say it the wrong way. We need to understand how he was able to rebuild Soviet Union to the point that they threatened us, that they took over the Ukraine and a big part of the Ukraine. And the explanation that the guy is an idiot, that doesn't do.
No, because if you're calling him an idiot and just you're not looking into what he actually did and accomplished, which is I understand what you're saying. You should respect the way that he did it, so you can learn from it.
So you can learn from it and you can counteract it.
Exactly.
Because if you just think the guy is an idiot, you'll keep ignoring it. That's what will happen. They lost Crimea, lost part of the Ukraine. And the problem here is, too, that, that we talk about, we're going to impose sanctions on Russia. They are laughing at it. We're going to impose sanctions. We're going to go and send all this help to Ukraine, but the sanctions are going to conquer Russia. They're laughing at it. What sanctions, by the way? Stealing, fleecing wealthy Russians and stealing their boats is not the sanctions. And we know this administration will not impose any meaningful sanctions, that this president will not impose any meaningful sanctions on people who are feeding him and his family. I mean, think about it. I mean, the millions flooding this president's family from Russian oligarchs, from Ukraine, from anywhere else. do you think he really would stop that? I mean, he's benefiting in it, and that's very dangerous. We are very dangerous spot.
Oh, yeah.
We have a powerful entity in Europe. I'm talking about Russia, who is threatening right now the world peace, and we are not doing any better. We are not helping to change this process. Seems like we just try to escalate.
And profit from it.
And profit from it. So what Ukraine needs is meaningful sanctions. Ukraine needs not just the money, but needs also meaningful, concrete help, and military-wise. And really, this is not happening. What happened to the Ukrainian counteroffensive? Like everybody, all our generals here, General Miley and everybody were pushing. What happened to the offensive? I was saying from the beginning that with the help or with the no help that we provide, just sending money, and I don't know where the money go. This seems like the laundering scheme. Yeah. But sending all this money, Ukrainians are not able to free themselves yet because they don't get the help that they need.
Exactly.
And that's need to change because, if Ukraine falls, other country in Europe will fall. Other country will come endangered. The Ukraine right now is the buffer, is those people who are defending the entire West. We need to remember that. But they're saying about this too now. I hear a lot of hate now on people from Russia, on Russian citizens. They don't like that war.
No.
They are people just like me and you. And now punishing just the Russians like here. Oh, this guy is from Russia. Let's just cut him off. Let's do this. Let's do that. Why? I mean, these people don't want that war. They're not
making the decisions.
They're making the decisions.
Yeah.
And just let them be the people. Let them live the way they live. Please remember too that the nation that experienced the most atrocities, the nations that was hurt the most by socialism and communism is Russia. There's millions of victims of socialism and communism. So now they were able to shake this off. And unfortunately, President Putin now started the war in Ukraine. But this is something too. When I went to Ukraine, I went to Poland. So when I talked to my Ukrainian friends, they all say, well, we knew that if President Biden is going to get elected, we have a war on our hands. We're going to lose part of our country. We are afraid of President Biden as much as we're afraid of Putin. That's how that was their sentiment. That was very common when I talk to these people. It's sad. It's really sad.
What is their
could be different?
What is their reasons why they knew that Biden, like, as soon as he got elected, that they were going to go to war? Did they say, like, just is because he's weak?
Because his connection with the corruption. Mm-hmm. He's tanking money from Russian oligarchs, and especially when I don't remember one of the speeches he did. Says that we will punish Russia, but we're still gonna pay for the nuclear fuel to Putin. Basically, that's So there's and they knew the corruption of this administration, and they knew that they will not stand up for Ukraine. That Putin is free to do anything they want. I'm just surprised the Chinese didn't take Taiwan yet because
that could be coming.
That's my concern. So the Build Back Better, the only Build Back Better I know about is Build Back Better Taliban, because now this administration and General Miley armed Taliban to the point that they have better equipment than many European countries combined.
Yep.
And they have more of that equipment.
I'm so not equipped for like a lot of this conversation, so much more, but is that because of us leaving leaving all our stuff there when we had that quick departure?
The way we armed them, yes. This administration fled Afghanistan in such a hurry that we left thousands of our citizens and allied citizens in Taliban hands, and all this equipment. We left them more equipment. They have more equipment right now that many European countries combined. So think about it. Build Back Better, not America, Taliban.
Yeah.
And and now, so what happened is after this decades of war where we tried to go and bring some civilization there, we left Taliban stronger, and we left Taliban better equipped and armed than they were ever before.
Yeah.
So after the decades of waging war, that's not how you wage war. It is disturbing. There's another thing too. Spartans used to say, you wage war on enemies maybe for 3-4 years. Anything beyond this, you are teaching your enemy. So first 3-4 years, you can be effective, but after that, you're just teaching your enemy. We are not only teach the enemy the Taliban how to fight the war, we equip them, we arm them. So the consequences will come definitely, and I'm afraid of it.
Yep, that's the truth.
But okay, going back to growing up in Poland. So as I was getting older, I started understanding a little bit more. But for me, it was still, I didn't know that I was poor. I didn't know that there were people disappearing from the streets. There were people being killed by socialist regime in prison for their different beliefs and views. I didn't know that, but I remember, and it was not political at the time. I was in 5th grade in school, and this is the time in Poland, the 5th grade, that people start learning, were forced to learn Russian. And I was never a good student. I had a problem with Polish language. So here they throw on me some language that people that I don't even like, because I was told that they are enemies of Poland. So I piped up to the teacher, why do you teach us Russian? There's people in Poland here who don't even speak Polish very well, and you are to try to push the Russian language of our enemies on us. And I just didn't think much of it. I just said it. The next thing, I was pulled by my ear out of the bench, marched to the, literally, just because it was in Poland, that's the way they deal with not good students or students that cause problems. The teacher woke up, grabbed me by the ear, twisted my ear, picked me up, and marched me to principal's office. And, of course, explained what happened. They get on the phone, call police. The police, on the way to school, they swiped my mother. She was a teacher in different school. So they went up there, they detained her, threw her in the car, brought her in, and we had a lecture, basically. The outcome of this meeting was, we were told that, my mother was told, that if she does not instill more love for socialism, the kids will be taken away from her, and we will be educated by the state as a good citizens. I mean, imagine having a 12-year-old kid and being threatened the state can come in and take your kids away from you.
So all you did, you asked, why do we have to learn Russian? And immediately...
Well, I just say Russians are our enemies too. Yeah. So that was okay. And why they teach us Russians.
And this is coming from a 12-year-old or
12-year-old kid, yeah. And schools are run by the states, please remember. Those are either schools that you have nothing to say what they teach you. They can teach you whatever they want. So those schools were more big indoctrination camp into socialism and Marxist ideology. So that's how dangerous any dissent, I think it was for them. They didn't want a dissent. So yeah, that was the word. My family was terrorized.
All this sounds eerily familiar.
Right?
Well, I'm just saying with what's going on now.
With the parents being branded as terrorists because they don't want
their kids being taught, the
perversion
the woke,
well, you know what? Let me talk about this woke a little bit. There is another thing, which is not very well understood in the West because people didn't live in socialist state here, and I hope they never will. Is a process called desensitization and normalization of evil.
Yep.
So the sensitization process is where they replace the words that are generally understood as bad, as something that offensive or dangerous. So like perversion, depravity, and people will not tolerate it. So, but if you replace perversion, depravity with, let's say, woke, that sounds benign. That sounds something that's more palatable for people. But there is nothing woke that's not different with the depravity and perversion. So if we start calling the evil by the good names, and so some like benign names, that evil become not so evil anymore, right?
I mean, and that's just a simple, change
Right.
of words can
Right.
affect the meaning of what it actually is. I mean,
Yes.
you take into example, I had a discussion with somebody the other day, they were talking about, abortion, and they're like, well, I'm pro-choice. And I was like, well, then you're pro-death. And they're like, no, I'm pro-choice. And I was like, well, if you're pro-choice, that's fine, but you're killing a baby, right? So you're pro-death.
You're pro-killing baby.
But they call it pro-choice, so you don't have to think about that, what you're actually choosing to do.
And you're saying the word choice being replaced with death or killing a baby.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
So
like choice sounds like
simple change of
Right,
words
right.
doesn't make it sound as bad.
Yes, desensitization, that's what it is. And this is very typical. The socialists like in Poland, they were very versed in these tactics. So everything they say that they were doing, it was always for the country, for citizens, for people, for families, when they were killing people and families at the same time. But their rhetorics were just like, we are all for it. And anybody else who was opposing any of these perversions and depravities in Poland at the time was branded anti-Polish, was branded criminal, or was branded anti-social person. So there's that process is called the desensitization, that they replace these words, and even the history, they replace entire history, the monuments which were symbolizing Polish heritage, Polish kings and the kingdom, they were all removed, destroyed. And most of the time, like my age, when I was growing up, I never heard of these. My parents knew it, but this is how they desensitize the nation. They remove that, change, twist the history, twist the words, change the words, make the atrocity of socialism more palatable and acceptable, and everything in the name of something good, but at the same time demonizing everything that is not aligned with Socialist Party. So there is that desensitization process, but there is also another process that here people do not understand, is normalization of poverty and normalization of evil. So basically what happened in Poland is when they knew that older generation, just like my grandmothers, they understand very well what evil is and what to guard children from. So their hope was to prolong that process until that generation fades away, while already schooling, indoctrinating into evil new generations like my generation. I was not susceptible for it because my father was not with me to counteract my mother's and my grandmother's teaching. But there were many families that were actually susceptible, and they gave in to the socialist ideology. And that was this is very dangerous process, and we need to remember not to give in.
Well, give another example real quick, and I'll let you get on. Like desensitizing, normalizing, making it palatable. Like think of, dude, especially this one. I'm not super political, neither are you. Like we're not real but like honestly, it's evil. It's going, hey, trans choice, for children, and really what it is going, hey, it's child mutilation.
It is.
Yeah.
Let me make a point here before I address what you just say. There's one thing. There are mentally ill people with gender dysphoria. They are genuinely ill. And, this is what I know America for, the compassion. We don't go and beat up on people with schizophrenia or other mental illness. We show them compassion, and I think we should show compassion to these people as well. But there is a difference. There are genuinely mentally ill people that need our compassion, and perverts stalking our children in their bathrooms, perverts attacking sports women and try to infiltrate women's sports, perverts pole dancing and twerking in front of our little kids. That's perversion, depravity. Yes. These people in normal times would be locked up in prison for being perverts. And so we need to make these distinctions because we need to be compassionate to mentally ill people. Mm-hmm. And, by the way, if the dude wants to wear the lipstick and wig and high heels and dress, who am I to tell him how he has to dress, right? It's just, if he wants to wear a dress, skirt and dress, more power to him. America is a free country. You can do it. Just stay away from my children.
Exactly.
And
Bingo.
that's and don't try to tell my children that you are kind of like special gender or something. There are two genders. There's man and female, and no amount of legislations and political pressure can transmute chromosome X into chromosome Y and vice versa.
Yeah.
So painting stripes on the horse doesn't make it a zebra. You castrate the bull, still the bull without balls. Without balls. So, you can't change man into woman. You can change appearance. You can pretend that you are. And that's fine with me. If you want to, pretend you're a woman.
Don't push it on our children.
Yeah, just stay away from my children. And this is another thing. We will not win this fight with evil if we just let schools proceed with the deprivation and depravity. We as a parents, especially now, today, we need to be active. We need to interrogate our kids. Maybe interrogate is maybe the wrong word. We need to question our kids. We need to ask them what they learn in school. And if you see that they bring the pornographic school lecture from schools, which now we know that schools have on their shelves in their libraries pornographic books, if brings books like this, we need to counteract. We need to reteach our kids that this is wrong, this is not normal, it shouldn't happen. Because if we don't, they will be fully indoctrinated into evil, and that's what the evil side is trying to do. So this is no longer a dispute between the Republican Party and Democratic Party. There are many Democrats that see this evil process themselves. That they are not fond of it. They don't like it. They don't want it. This is fight. Evil versus good, and good people are on both sides of political aisle, and on both sides we have evil people too. So no party is immune to evil.
No, not at all.
And we need to recognize this, but we need to support people that we know they are good, and really stand up to people that are evil on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I think that the conundrum that I face is, I completely agree with you with showing compassion to people who are, mentally ill or disabled in some way. That's without question, right? They deserve our love, our compassion, and we should try to help them. But my thing is, I'm like, okay, to where we are now, where they're now teaching, in certain schools that all, this perversion and everything else, like, how do we remain compassionate to those, but then also, I think we've tolerated for so long, like, oh no, this is fine, just tolerate it, and I'm not talking about, across the spectrum of people with mental illness or whatever. I'm talking, there's certain things which have led to where we are now, right? Where it's like, no, I don't agree. I mean, I don't care what you do. If you want to dress up as a woman, put on lipstick, act like one, and you're a man, that's your freedom to do that because we live in America. But at the same time, I don't agree with it. Like, I would not let my kids, I'm not going to teach my kids that that's okay.
Oh,
right?
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You really don't have to.
But
because
that's where I'm like, because if you said that 10 years ago or, whatever, 5 years ago, like, hey, you would be called intolerant. You'd be called a bigot, racist. They throw every name at the book at you. Like,
that's socialism. How socialism works.
Yeah.
Intimidation.
And now because we've remained tolerant for so long. Now we're at a point where now our kids are being affected, and I think in some states there's nothing parents can do about it. Where they're being taught, these kids are being taught in schools, and these parents are being labeled terrorists for going to these schools, being like, I don't want my kids learning this, and then they're being dragged out of the school, being told, well, while they're in school, they're not your kid, they're ours. And I'm like, at what point is it where being intolerant or tolerant, like, there has to be a line that you have to stand up for.
The enemy of America and evil people learn from the past. most of the people, the good people, it seems like they don't. They learn very well, and they remember what you just say, that they're our kids. That's what Adolf Hitler said. That's what Joseph Stalin was saying. Mm-hmm. That's what political party in Poland, the socialist communist political party, where my father belonged to, was saying to Poland. Those are not your kids. Those are all our kids. But then was the explanation of it, that those desensitization and normalization, to say, we're saying they are our kids because we all are, responsible to help to bring them up. So they kind of softened it up. But the bottom line is, when the government tells you that those are their kids, not yours, you need to do something about it. You cannot just sit on the sidelines, because this is the beginning of the totalitarian state. Today, they will tell you that twerking in front of the kids is okay. Tomorrow, they will tell you that euthanasia of kids with mental disabilities is okay. That's how dangerous the process is. We must resist this thing. And you mentioned here earlier, Eddie, when you said, so how we can understand, how we can reconcile being tolerant and being compassionate to these people, and at the same protecting our kids. Those are hard choices sometimes, how you need to react. I don't know, for me, I'm a simple man. So it's like, if it doesn't affect my child or me, if you want to wear dress, I'm fine with it, but I will step in the second you try to indoctrinate or pervert my child.
Yeah.
I will then full force open. This is not going to happen. And the first thing I will do, I will address with my son, with my kids. But I tell you the example, just recently me and Rachel went to the store, and the dude showed up in the skirt dress with the lipstick on, working in one of this electronic stores. And he still had the whiskers on, speak like a dude, it was a total dude, just with the long hair, lipstick, and dress. He is not harming anybody. He is just trying to live his life the best he can. Somebody with schizophrenia tell you that he sees the clown. You're not going to argue with him that there is no clown in the group. You're just compassionate. And he did. We actually made the purchase from that thing, he or she, how do you say it?
Whatever. I don't know. Yeah. The dude dressed as a chick.
Yeah, the dude dressed like a chick. And we didn't make a squam about it. He's introduced himself as Julia or something. So we call you, hey, dude, Julia. I didn't. I address him as a Julia, because, it doesn't take anything away from me to be respectable to my fellow American. And I don't see, I think what helps me too, because the good that I experience from America, the good that I know about America and American people, it helps me see people as Americans. I don't, again, I wouldn't want it on my son, and I would just spank him and I tell him, you're not going to wear the dress and lipstick. But you know what? For me, they're just another American struggling with his own issues. And why do I have to pile up my own,
beliefs
views? Yeah, beliefs and views on this person who is already hurt in the hurt locker, and he's already confused and suffering from mental illness. So this is the way I look at it. If it doesn't harm my kids, you want to wear the dress, you're fine with me. You want to call yourself Julia and Juliet, whatever, I'll call you Julia and Juliet, but... do I believe that you are a woman? Hell no.
No.
You are the dude, just... but also there's another thing you mentioned, the mutilation of our kids that you mentioned. This is something that we need to be very careful, and I think we need to be actively counteract by exposing those doctors who mutilate our children. Those are not doctors. Those are Frankensteins. Those are doctors Frankensteins mutilating our kids, and for what? And then, as we can see now, decades later, as adults, they come out and very often and try to explain to people that they were harmed by these Frankenstein doctors. They are not different than Adolf Hitler, Dr. Mengele.
Yeah, which they're silencing all those detransitioners.
Yes, it's big business too. They make tons of money just mutilating our children. My hope is this. Again, here in America, people never experienced socialism, so they are oblivious to some workings of it. But in Poland at the time, I remember we never thought that these people that beat me up, they tortured me later in prison, that those people who were killing innocent citizens for different views, those people who imprison citizens with different views in Poland will ever be prosecuted, because that seems like everybody, all the fake news media was promoting this view that everybody is pro-socialism and communism, and very few of these polls are against. And so I never believed that these people will be prosecuted ever for the atrocities, for the genocide of people on behalf of socialism. But they did. When socialism fell in Poland, people who murder people, they went to prison. Some of them. They went to jail. Matter of fact, like a few months ago, I think, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I got a call from prosecutor in City Lots. Wanted to talk about the police beating me up in prison at the time, and when I was in prison as a political prisoner. And I was offered reparations for my time in prison, because when I was fully exonerated, all political prisoners at the time, which we never thought would happen, were fully exonerated. And then those people who were imprisoning and killing people were prosecuted in Poland. So my hope is that one day this Frankenstein, Dr. Mengele, will be fully prosecuted for the mutilations of our children. Mm-hmm. Again, cutting bulls from the ball doesn't make a cow. It's still bull, just castrated bull without balls.
Yeah. And kids don't understand. I mean, especially as they're growing, like their brains haven't developed. They don't. Yeah. They're so influential.
And especially when they are the puberty time is very confusing to kids. And sometimes it just is enough to say, no, you're not the woman. Wear the pants. You're not gonna wear the lipstick or the wig, and not gonna put the fake tits on you. Or to the boy, no, we're not gonna cut your dick, because you just think that being 14 years old, you think for the woman for maybe a couple months. Yeah. And they usually that cures everything. You just say, no, you're not the woman, and just stay the way you are.
Yeah, well, it's the same premise. Like, I mean, Ryan, my youngest, he's 7 years old. You joke like, oh, I want to get a tattoo or a face tattoo or whatever, and you're like, no, you're not getting that. It's as simple as that. Like, that's a decision that's going to affect you the rest of your life. Yeah. We're not letting you do it under this household.
Exactly. And if you're 18, if you're on your own as an adult, you decide to do those things, then man, hopefully I've instilled in you my values enough by then.
Yes, but what a great opportunity to sow discord and sow divisions, because now you promote these genuinely ill people and other people, the perverts around, in the same basket. You throw these perverts and genuinely ill people with gender dysphoria in the same basket. And what do you have next? People hate everybody then. They hate perverts. So they hate also these people who shouldn't be hated. Yeah. And that's the problem. And then you show more and more discord in society. And the more discord you have, for socialists, that's easier. The more divisions, the easier to control the society, the easier to impose fake elections like they happen in Poland all the time. So we just don't want to go there. We need to protect America. And people often ask me too, like, hey, why don't you just step into politics? Maybe you can just go for office. I'm better person. I think I'm more productive protecting America and American process, so we can have these politicians. We need to vote for the right politicians. Yeah. But we have these politicians that they can make decisions without looking over shoulder what Chinese men will tell them or what Chinese agents will tell them what to do. So I think they are more productive protecting America this way than in politics.
Yeah.
So in Poland, when you were in Poland, when did you become imprisoned in Poland?
Well, there was a process. After my stint with the secret police and my mom being threatened, my family being threatened for just not wanting to learn Russian, my uncle stepped in, and I started learning a little bit more about my uncle. My uncle was a businessman. So he had his own business. He was really good business. He was doing Uncle Adam. He was working very hard. And to the point that he started competing with businesses owned by party members or just by the government itself. So they came to him, they sent these groups in Poland, they were called themselves anti-fascists or anti-Nazis. They branded my uncle as a fascist and Nazi because he had a business, and they told him that if he doesn't scale down, he's going to go and lose his business. They're gonna just take it away, or they will destroy it. And they threatened him a few times. Eventually they came at night. They destroyed his equipment, and nobody was found. They're like, we don't know who did that. He knew who did that, but so when he went to police, they arrested him. They beat him up, sent him in the morning home, all black and blue. And then he was snatched from the street a couple of times too, or going to business. They destroyed he rebuilt his business, I think, 3 times. Eventually he ran out of resources. So he was left with nothing. Wow. But this is how government controls. They let you, in socialism, you can have business. You can have your own property. But the government control all the key economic infrastructures and the factories. And basically, like the bigger factories, even if you think you own it, you're just more like a manager of behalf of the Socialist Party. If they don't agree with what you do, they just fire you. And the same thing, the socialism is not far away from Adolf Hitler National Socialism. If you look at the history of the Junkers, the bombers from the Second World War and stuff, the owner of this factory, Mr. Junkers, he was eventually removed by the National Socialist Party from the factory, and somebody else took over. And this is how the government controls it. They don't have to just legally. They don't have to come and say, okay, we're gonna take your business over, or we're gonna shut you down. They just divert the resources away from your business. They shadow ban you. They do these things that you will lose your business. So you're basically terrorized by the state to accept that. So my uncle was involved in it, and he started teaching me. Say, look, the history that you learn. And he was asking my mom for permission to talk to me about it. She said, yes, the history that you learn is perverted. Everything about the real history of Poland was removed or was twisted to suit the socialist state and socialist party. Everything, all the books were removed, and only those that were supporting the socialist ideology were left for us to read. And if I want to know more, I need to listen to Radio Free Europe, Voice of America, BBC. And those stations were banned in Poland. You could go to prison listening to them. And not only that, they built an entire network of radio stations around the borders that were drowning the BBC, Voice of America, and Radio Free Europe. So you can, when you listen to it, you can hear ooh go, and a little bit more voice in the background. So the louder you make to understand the voice, the ooh was louder. So eventually, some neighbors who were pro-party, if they hear you, they denounce you, and
they'll
then
snitch on you.
They snitch on you. And this is why my mom was perplexed when I started listening to it. So she bought all the pillows, blankets, everything. So when I had a little tiny radio, I can open the radio, I can listen, but she piled up all the things on me. Then I was telling her what I learned from these radios. So this is how I started learning, what really happens. In 1978, I think that's 78, 79, John Paul II Pope came to Poland. And there was like a catalyst to people to raise up against all this deprivation, perversion, and, cut it out.
Yeah. Better out than in.
Yeah. So they had enough. And please remember, at that time too in Poland, we were hungry. There was no food. There was shortages over everything. Food was you had to have a coupon to buy food, not just the money. You had to have a coupon, and the coupon tells you how much food you can eat. If you try to buy more than that the coupon says, you could go to prison. That was illegal. So they tell you how great it is. Our economy is awesome. We are the best. The socialism is such a great state. We are an awesome state. We are the best country in the world to live in. And you are starving. So, yeah. But this is how propaganda, how pervasive the censorship and propaganda was in the socialist state. So when people finally had enough, they raised up. They created the first independent organization, independent from Communist Party. And that was a big offense to everybody in Warsaw Pact, every communist in socialist behind the Iron Curtain. Not only that they built this independent trade union movement. That trade union morphed into social movement. 1/3 of adult Poles belong to this. This is how much they hate socialism. And I tell you, if they could get away with it, they would hang every socialist from the Latin Post if they could. And another thing too, people say, well, does Russia did it? Well, no, most of the people were killed and murdered not by Russians in Poland. They were murdered by Poles who subscribed to this ideology. Now, nobody would ever think how Poles can go kill Poles. Or before, every 6 years there were upheavals because socialist economy is so inefficient. So they had all these upheavals every 6 years. So every 6 years they murder people on the streets. If you come out on the street to protest, you are either killed or in prison every 6 years. And then the crew say, okay, we're going to build better socialism. These guys, for these 6 years, they didn't know how to build socialism. They built the wrong socialism. We built the right socialism. And then 6 years later, the same story. New crew, new group come in of communists and say, no, we're going to build better socialism. These people will kill you just on the street 2 days ago. They are bad. They'll be prosecuted, but we're going to build better socialism. And it happened for like 1956, 1968, 1970, 1976, and 1980. So all these upheavals and murders happen. And it is normal for socialist state. And that's why eventually people raise up, build that social movement, and social communists didn't know what to do. Like my father. My father ideas was at the time said, like, look, if we don't convince you to accept socialism, we're going to cancel you. If that doesn't work, we're going to imprison you. If that doesn't work, we're going to kill you. And when I talked to father, I said, why would you do that? Well, because people who don't understand the benefits of socialism, they don't want to learn about it, are dangerous. So we need to eliminate by any means. We, of course, don't want to kill them, but eventually it may come to that we will have to kill them. That was talking to me when I was 17 years old.
I read a little bit into the book, like, so eventually your mom sent you to your dad's, right?
Right.
So is that where all that transpired?
Well, that was... my father left when I was 7 years old, so that was later. I was 7 years old. My father had enough of it. He knew his calling, the socialism, and my mother and our family was like an anchor to his, like a chain to his uncle. So he left, and this is where those people who before tried to prosecute us for me burning the weeds, all they came up to, and we had a lot of struggle to do because we didn't have the protection of socialist party, communist party in socialist state. Mm. So Poland eventually, when they built this trade union in 1980s, so I was already 20 years old, the socialist state didn't know what to do with it, so eventually it led to imposing martial law in Poland, and that was December 13, 1980. That was one night on December 13. That was in single night. They arrested, there are different estimates, from 25 to 60,000 people. Whoa. So the socialist state was preparing those lists, who to arrest, way much earlier. They knew they're going to do it. Yeah. And so on the night, they just executed it. The secret police, the military got involved in it. The military, they were raiding apartments across Poland, homes, workplaces, and arresting people for nothing, actually, because the explanation was that at the beginning, the initial arrest, there's 25,000 people. They were not criminals. They were not people who commit something. They were people that were. But that's how they explained it to Poles, to us at the time. They were potentially dangerous to the state and dangerous to Poles, to Poland, the Polish existence. They tried to overthrow Polish socialist government. They tried to overthrow it. So we just don't arrest them. We just put them into detention centers, into internment camps. And so that was just one night, around from 25 to 60,000 people. Now, then when people start protesting it, just go on the street, say, look, that shouldn't happen. They start arresting them, but this time charging them with insurgency, just with opposing the socialist state, with trying to overthrow government. And these people were branded as criminals. I was one of them. So my status was never the internee in the internment camp, I was criminal, a felon, a political prisoner, because I refused to accept the socialism. I refused to accept their tactics, their methods, and I protested that, and I tried to do something about it. In my case, I was printing underground bulletin newspaper. It's not a big deal, just 1-page leaflet, maybe 2 pages leaflet, but that was dangerous they seemed as a dangerous to socialist state that they arrest me and everybody in my group, and we were sentenced to prison time for that, just for that.
Wow.
How long were you in prison for?
I was in prison since from 1980, beginning 1982 to almost end of 1983. So my prison sentence was 3 years.
Okay.
But they released us a little bit earlier because John Paul II, for his second visit, he actually made request that all political prisoners will be released before his visit. He will not come until political prisoners are released from Poland. And remember, there was a big deal, I describe it in the book, for socialists and communists, that they are not perceived as somebody holding political prisoners. Just stating that there might be political prisoners in Poland could put you in prison yourself. And so they did everything to prevent, to say that, no, they are not political prisoners. This is why we're called criminals. Why criminal? Because the law was criminalized, was weaponized. The law was weaponized against people. So if you protest something, you were criminal. You didn't do it because you were protesting. You were criminal because the law said that you cannot protest. So we brand you as a criminal. And now anybody inquiring about what happened to you or why you're in prison, you are in prison because you committed crime. What was the crime? Or speaking against the government. Is that crime? Yes, by the Polish law at the time it was crime. So we were branded criminals. Everybody speaking against socialism, communism, trying to do something against it was branded criminal, or it was branded criminal. I was too.
It's like asking questions, seeking truth.
That was criminalized, yes. To there's certain questions, certain things were criminalized, and if you did that, you could go, and many did, go to prison. So that's how socialism works. They need to do that. They need to protect themselves, because otherwise people will not vote for them. They know that people will not vote for them. So they have to have fraudulent election. And fraudulent election in socialist, we call it actually in Poland, socialist elections. And here people ask me sometimes, what socialist elections are? Well, socialist elections are where communists and socialists are always elected to the government. It's like nobody else have any chance.
Yeah. And if anybody
try to challenge
up,
you, you end up in prison.
Or
being shown, being censored.
If you protest in some way saying the election was fraudulent,
you could go to prison or go cancel.
In front of the capital of where you're living, and then you get thrown in prison and called a criminal with no other details, just telling everybody, hey, these people are criminals for saying that the election was fraudulent.
And more prominent people who were like known in Poland, and they suddenly start speaking for truth against socialism, they were silenced. Then you find out that their books just disappear from the bookstores and libraries. Their name was wiped out. You never mentioned their name. They never existed. And there's many authors, artists, painters, poets who disappeared that way from maybe not physically. Many of them did physically disappear, but there are many of them that disappear from the social life, from Polish society. Those they just cancel them. Just my father said, we cancel you first, but if that doesn't work, we imprison you or kill you.
Wow.
And that's how they believe. They did what they needed to do to protect themselves, to stay at power, because if they lose power, they would be prosecuted. And it happened. They lost power in 1990s, and they were eventually removed from power, and they were prosecuted for the atrocities, for the judicial killings, the judicial murders, that's what they call it. Those prosecutors and those judges that were sentencing people to prison or to death for opposing socialism, they were prosecuted later, and that was called judicial murders. That's how they call these criminal acts on behalf of the socialist government. was judicial murders. They just sentenced somebody to jail, to prison for.
So when John Paul II, I think you said John Paul II. When was Poland more worried about how it looked? So they were worried about him coming out and going, "Hey, I'm not coming there."
At that time, the government officials, the communists already. They needed loans from the West. They need money because people were starving on the streets. The economy was a socialist economy, as always, was collapsed, and so they had to get. They had either total uprising in Poland and just remove them by force, possibly hanging them from the Latin posts, to maybe somehow compromise. And they start actually doing it. They start slowly trying to still enact laws and laws that allow them to stay in power, but very often, but they had to give in a little bit, and a little bit, eventually, there was enough freedom in Poland that people could actually vote them out and remove them from power. And then those more dangerous ones, those that were killing people or sentencing people to death, were prosecuted for judicial. As a matter of fact, Polish constitution today says, I think there's Article 13, if I remember right, you are not allowed to promote totalitarian system like National Socialism, like communism in Poland. You can actually, for that, you could go to prison for promoting such dangerous ideologies. So Poles are well aware how dangerous these ideologies are. I hope we start teaching that in Poland too, because if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat the same thing. And people who don't know how dangerous socialism is, eventually they will try to go and impose it here on us.
So John Paul II coming in got you out of prison.
Yep.
How'd you get to the U.S.?
So I call it escape, but the technicality was that they really didn't want me there either. The communist government. That was before the communism fell in Poland. They were still strong in power. So they want people like me to just go away, not to influence the neighborhoods, not to influence people around me. And I went to, so they terrorized me. I was walking on the street. Sometimes we were doing kickboxing. So I was coming back from the training and they, with friends, and they just, the civilian car pulls in, the guys come up, flash the badges, handcuff me, throw me in the car, drive me around for like maybe 6-7 hours sometimes. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they just throw me outside on the outskirts of the city. In Poland at that time, I just had to walk. There's no buses, no nothing. I didn't have a car. So I had to walk home a few miles. And it happened quite a few times. So eventually I said, one of these escapades, I might not come back. And people were not. There were people who did not. So I went to U.S. Embassy and asked for help. And they asked me for documents and all that stuff. I brought it to them. And usually there was a process that takes like 6, I think maybe 7-8 months to wait for immigration or visa. I got approved in, I think, like 2 months, 2-3 months, and I was out of Poland very quickly.
Did you always want to come to the United States?
I did. Actually, I did. Well, not maybe I'll come to the United States. There was time that I wanted Poland to be like America. I say, why can we in Poland have our lives like the way we want to live, having no government telling us what we can, what we cannot do, having government not telling us what school we can attend or what schools we cannot attend because we didn't belong to party or communist youth or socialist youth organization. So I was always fascinated by it. Matter of fact, when I moved, I describe in my book here, The Pledge to America, that when I eventually, because it was so hard for us, we were living in a little tiny apartment with my mom and 3 siblings, that my mom decided to send me to my father to live in Warsaw. This is where I was exposed to this socialist way of thinking and dealing and acting and the socialist tactics. So this is when I was going to school. It happens was by the U.S. Embassy. And they had these glass, what do you call it, with displays on the fence to U.S. Embassy there. And I always like to see and read how people live in America. I see this beautiful big cars parked in front of the embassy, and description how the society works. And I was I just wanted Poland to be like that. Mm-hmm. And so it has always that warm spot in my heart. There was always people were saying, America, this, that. If you want to be free, you need to go to America. You need to go to America to be free man. And no, I didn't think much about it, but it was sinking in my head, and especially when I started reading on this U.S. this displays on the fence of American embassy, how people live, how the life is, how people are. I say, I want the same thing in Poland, but then we couldn't, I was in danger, so where would I go ask for help? The country that I always look up to. And I went up there, and actually that even, the way they reacted to me, the way they treated me, it endeared me to America for the rest of my life. That's just the very beginning, from the very beginning. So I had more support, more help, more understanding from these people who didn't know me, from Adam. I just showed up there, and they helped me. They gave me my life back, and they didn't know me. So
they showed you compassion.
They showed me, yes, and they helped me get to America, and this is why. And also, so there was two steps. We went to Germany, like a small waiting place where we wait to assign place where we'll come and settle down in America. And this is where State Department with people from Americans were coming and teaching us about America. What you should do, what you shouldn't do. The how the life looks, how to be successful in America. And I remember, they never asked us for anything. They didn't ask, can you do this for us? Can you do that for us? No. I was only asked one thing, to respect America. Basically, to respect American values and respect American laws and American people, American citizen. And then you just live your life. Nothing else.
Where did you end up in America?
I ended up in Memphis.
Memphis?
In Poland, we didn't have a warm clothes. I describe in my book. So my dream was live in the tropical country, not country, but tropical place where it's hot, hot, hot. So when they asked me, did I have any preferences to settle down in America? That was in Germany at the time, that center, where they were processing my paperwork. Yeah. I say, well, if possible, if you can put me the hottest place in America where it's really hot. So why would you go to the hot place? I say, because I'm sick and tired of being cold. I was cold all my life. So anything that is not cold, I would love that. So they said, okay, how about Memphis, Tennessee? And my first question was, is it hot up there? They say, yeah, it is hot. They asked me if I know anything about Memphis. I said, no, I don't know where it is even, but I know that Elvis Presley was born there. So they say, yeah, that's good, that's good enough. Okay, we'll send you to Memphis, Tennessee. So this is where I came in. And
this you were
24 years old.
24.
So I didn't speak English very well at the time. I didn't speak English. I didn't speak English at all. I didn't speak English, and I had no money. So because eventually, when I left Poland, I didn't have anything. I have a bag of clothes, and I have a few dollars. America gave me a few dollars, just pocket money, just for the time in Germany. I was so not smart. I went and bought the tape recorder. I bought it because at that time, to listen to music, you have to record your own music. So I said, I'm going to go and I recorded some of the music, maybe 5, 6, 7 songs, and I was more enjoying holding that tape recorder and just looking at it than listening to that music. But there was so I spent all the money that I had is $20 on the tape recorder. So when I landed in America, I had 10 cents left. Actually, that was not even cents. They were pfennigs. 10 pfennigs, so it was maybe 5 cents. But anyway, so I had the 10 pfennigs in my pocket because actually I reached out, I pull it out, and I look at it, and I say, yeah, man, this is how I start. And then they flew me to Memphis.
A bag of clothes and a tape recorder. And 5 cents.
5 cents.
5 cents, worth 10 pfennigs. So whatever the 10 pfennigs at the time that's all I had. That was the only coin I had with me.
Did they provide you a job when you got there? Or?
Well, the American people provide me with everything. So when I landed in there, the first, they put me with the family. So older church people. So I lived them with maybe 2-3 weeks when they eventually found the apartment and job for me. So my first job in Memphis was I was a janitor. I was cleaning church, the school, the church, and I thought I'm in a haven because I got the job and I got apartment at the same time, and I could afford my apartment and my living on my own. But people were still coming from that church bringing me food, make sure that I have enough food, because I had like maybe a week, $15 for food left, but at that time was not bad. But they knew that, just not much food. So people were coming from this church, bringing me food, bringing me clothes, because the clothes that I had, like, was hard to even show up, and they were with it. They knew it, but that was all I could afford in Poland. Mostly that was sewn by my mom and my grandmother. So they were bringing me clothes. They were checking if I'm okay. And I remember I was invited. This is how the learning curve was very steep. I was invited to church pool party and a family party, like family, So there was like a very prominent family in Memphis that was hosting it. So all the kids from the church, everybody show up. So I was thinking, like, I get try to show up myself from the best way I can too, and be proper. So I picked the tightest shirt, like, I think today we call it banana hammock. But in Poland, that time there was like, the long shorts and the hanging shorts, baggy shorts, only old and fat people wear it. So like you never wanted to look like that. So I picked the tightest, the shortest, skimpiest Speedos, you would call, banana hammock I had. And so, they say, okay, it's cool. So we see all the kids playing in the pool, there's barbecue and stuff. So I came in, throw my shirt on the chair, took my pants off, and then I stood up. It's like, got quiet. It's like, so the sponsor came and said, hey, you come here for a second. And it's like, because I didn't speak English very well. No. And so the kids, at the same time, they start ushering kids away from the pool into the house. So I knew the Sunday was not quite right, but I just wanted to show myself
hey, he's European.
The best way.
It's fine.
And they gave me like big baggy shorts and this thing. I was like looking at it first. I was thinking like, when I get 60 years old, well, I'm 60 years old now, but I was thinking like, when I get 60 years old, I'll wear pants like this. But for now, for these people to appease them, I wear them. It's okay. I know people will be laughing. Nobody did, but I thought that everybody would be laughing at me being a young kid wearing fat guys shorts, because in Poland they were fat guy shorts. So I wear it, and they brought the kids back, and we were playing with everything okay. Later on, I understood that there were kids party, there was family party, and there was no thing to walking with the banana hammock around them. but I didn't know. And so American people were helping me. Everything that I have today, everything that I own today, and everything that my entire family, I owe to America and American people, and I will never forget that. So I came with nothing, and look at me now. I mean, I'm living my American dream.
So at what point? So when you got here, because you joined the military pretty soon.
Well, no, not quite soon. My intention was never to join military. I never thought about it until later. I became, I set my life here. I built my life. I was having good life. I was making good money. I was a Saab and Mercedes mechanic at the time. So I just was living my American dream. But when the first war, I became U.S. citizen too at the same time. So when I became American citizen, I was like, I made it. I got it. I made it. And then the war broke out, the first Persian War.
Yep.
So I was thinking, look, I just became American citizens. These people gave me everything they had, because what else can you give more than American citizenship? There is nothing more important, more beautiful can be bestowed on you than their citizenship. The Americans share with me all their rights, everything. I'll be like them. So I figured out it's time for me to do something for America. And the war broke out. So I said, well, I'm going to join up. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to fight war for America and then come back to my life. And I never intend to make a career out of it. I was just wanted to help America.
Yep.
And I didn't know how to go about it. I went to post office. I seen this, what do you call this, for these young kids, they had to register, like registration card for
draft.
For the draft, yeah. I didn't understand. So I thought this like you fill it up, and especially now it's war, they take me. So I filled it up, I sent it off. I came back to my place. I was living with other skydivers, and I packed my stuff, and basically I sat on my bags waiting for military to take me. And it's like, where are you going, Drago? Are you moving out? I mean, just not gonna leave us like this in the apartment here. I mean, we have to share the expenses and stuff with the roommates. And I say, no, but look, there's a war, so I'm just signed up for military. I'm going to war. It's like, when are you going to war, to military? I say, like, as soon as they take me. I mean, I already signed out the paperwork.
Yeah.
They were like, so you signed this thing? You didn't tell us anything. I say, no, I just I just went up there. I seen this. I think this is the right thing to do. I signed it. But then, like 30 days later, it's like the letter basically saying, dude, you are 30 years old, 32 years old almost. So you are too old. You don't need to sign this thing. This is only for young kids out of school to sign it. And there's not a contract for this military service. So I was like, didn't know what to do. And they said, like, well, you need to go to the army office. So this is where I went. And this is how I signed, because I signed for military because I think that was the right thing to do. I never intend to be make the career out of it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to fight the war. War is over. I come back to my great American dream life. And that just didn't happen. I stayed in 20 years.
You were 32, and then you went to the Army?
Well, I went to Army first, because at that time I didn't know anything about military. I had no distinctions between Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. For me, it was just military. So the first office I went, it's like Army's got to be. So I went up there, and I signed up. They started processing my paperwork. And they asked me, like, do I have any preference where I would like to serve as a who in Army? I said, I don't care. Just send me where that unit that goes to war first, because there's a war, and I want to fight for America. So they say, okay, they start processing me. And then it happened that Leapfrogs, the Navy SEAL jump team, came to Memphis. They were doing jumps. The guy I talked to at the time, I still remember, Tim O'Hara, is from, I think he's still with Tim, if you hear it. Cheers, brother. He's firefighter now, I think, in somewhere in San Diego. But anyway, I talked to him, and he just said, like, well, you know, because they were jumping, they were doing demo jumps in Memphis at the time, and of course they came to our drop zone to do more jumps on their own, right? So it was awesome to jump with them. I was skydiving at the time, so I was jumping with them, and he just said to me that you might want to try to join the Navy. Why didn't you go to Army? Join that. I said, well, you know, I didn't know what it is, and but I just want to serve. He said, so okay, go to Navy office and tell them that you want to be Navy SEAL. I said, I don't know. Okay, what's that? Oh, that's like us. I was thinking, like, well, if they just go fly around and jump around the cities, I don't mind that. But I want to go to bad. Yeah, but I still want to go to war. But he said, no, you will go to war for sure. I said, okay. So I went to Navy. I said, hey, I'm processing for Army, but I think I would like to join the Navy maybe. So why would you like to join the Navy? I say, well, because I just met Navy SEAL who told me to come and talk to you. They're like, Navy SEAL, ooh, okay. So they showed me that Navy SEAL movie and all that stuff, you know, the Navy SEAL, the training movie.
Yeah, the old
recruiting movie, yeah.
When they show them.
So I was all fired up. And I said, he told me to go take my paperwork from Army office. So I did. Kind of feel awkward because they did all the work. Yeah. But I did. And so I bring in the paperwork, just look at it and say, well, I tell you this. You are too old for the Navy SEAL program. At that time, there was a DIFER program, not DIFER, DIFER.
DIFER, yeah.
But there was like for SEAL, there's a 28 years age limit. I was going 32. So they say, don't worry about it. You just sign this paperwork, you go to boot camp, and they will make you a SEAL. I was like, okay, well, you know, I didn't really stress it out too much because that was not my intention to be a SEAL. My intention was to serve America. Any capacity I think I would be needed for. And I said, if I can, it's great. If I don't, that'll be great too, you know, as long as but I said, if I go to war, he said, yes. I said, okay, what do I sign? I signed this thing. And this is how I end up. It's kind of a funny story too, because the paperwork was already processed. And they asked me, like, it was nice of them that they say, okay, what job would you like to do in the Navy? I said, I want to be a SEAL. No. At that time, you had to have a
Yeah,
Navy
you had a
job
rate.
and then you can apply for SEAL training and be a SEAL, but you still stay in your rate. So they say, well, you skydive, maybe how about parachute rigger? Figure out like parachute rigger sounds good, parachutes. I'll be parachuting, I'm sure. So this doesn't work like that. But so I say, yeah, parachute rigger is good. So they look in their catalogs and the books. There were no computers at the time, and at least not that many. And he says, okay, so if you want to go to parachute rigging school, it starts on this and this day. That means that you have to go to boot camp and graduate from boot camp on such and such day. That means that you have to leave next week. It's like, okay, sign me up.
Done.
So I called my girlfriend at the time. I told her, hey, I'm going to the Navy. I'm joining the Navy. She's like, okay, when? I'm like, next week. What? Well, but the kicker is that we need to get married. Because otherwise, like, we don't know. So so we found the judge, I think, on Tuesday, on Monday, I think, to sign our paperwork. So he was just leaving. We were late, but we convinced him to come. Dominus bless us, signed the paperwork. We were married. Thursday, I went to be sworn into debt.
Yep.
And then on, I think, Saturday, I left for boot camp. That was quick.
You were able to get into the SEALs program even though it was 28 years old?
Well, no, not right away. I didn't know that they didn't tell me that this is impossible. They didn't tell me that after 20 years, there's a cut-off age. You just need to find something else. But that was like 4 years going past that age limit. But I guess because I did so good, in boot camp, I graduated as number 1 recruit in the whole graduation group. It's all whole graduation day. I was the number 1 recruit. And I got the Military Excellence Award. I was called in front of it. My name, nobody was there for me, but my name was called, like everybody could hear my name. It was a number 1 recruit. Then I went to A school. I graduated as a top of my class. So I think they seen something. They seen that maybe we give him a chance. So I did get the waiver for my age. So eventually I got my orders to basic underwater demolition SEAL school.
So how old were you when you went to BUD/S?
32. I graduated when I was, I think, 33, going 33. But so this is something that is funny because even that, in boot camp I had a kidney stone. And actually I found this document like a few days ago, says that not eligible for SEAL training due to the kidney stone and age, but he may apply again eventually. So I was bummed because that means that I had to go to Fleet for 4 years, but I didn't despair. I mean, I just want to go to war. So I go to war as a SEAL or I go to war as a parachute rigger, it doesn't matter. I just want to be part of that effort to fight for America. From the boot camp, I left to A school, to Millington. And there was a SEAL, Les Barrios, rest in peace, brother. I mean, he actually set the course for my entire life later. So I went to his office. I say, look, Petty Officer Barrios, I had a kidney stone. I passed the test for SEAL training. I just would like to go there. I'd like to go to SEAL training. I can pass the test again. But the kidney stone in my papers tells that I cannot go for 1 year, for like 2 years or something. I said, okay, go to post office. He wrote me the check. So I went to medical, got my paperwork. I brought it to him. He just kicked me out. Said, okay, leave. I'll call you right back. So I can be like, shut. I'm not listening by the windows, by the door, and he's like shuffling the paper, and I get.
Yes.
I say, all right, come on in. I
Awesome.
come in. I was like, say what he wants now, what he's going to tell me. I'm like anxious. I say, okay, you need to. Can you show me where this document saying you had a kidney stone is? I say, yeah, okay. So I'm like, look and say, I don't see it. He say, I don't see it. I say, I don't see it either. Are you sure you had a kidney stone? By this time, I was like, no, I don't think I had it. So he say, okay, you're going to take a test tomorrow and we'll see. So I passed the test. Tomorrow, he said he'll send out for orders. It's still not guaranteed. But I think my previous performance kind of like helped me get the orders. Yeah, this is where I met Jason Cabell. I don't know if you know this guy.
I know Cabell, yeah.
Yeah, so this is like, we both couldn't swim. But I was looking at this guy. If this guy thinks he's going to pass and he can't swim like the way he cannot swim, I'm going to pass for sure. This guy was worse than I. We could barely swim on that one side, not even one side. I was swimming the breaststroke. He was teaching me, actually helping me a little bit. I was helping him a little bit. We were just try to work with each other. How this is why when we become like the best friends, and we are friends still today. So I served with him in combat later on, and he came with Drago platoon.
Yep.
Actually, I have videos of him on some of the DA missions. So we are still friends today, and so this is how my road started. Eventually, he left a little bit earlier. I had to wait for my paperwork to be processed, because once I was there, came from different country, and two, I was my age. I was 4 years older than I should be. I was past the cutoff limit, so I think that I got processed. Eventually, I got my orders, and I left to Bats Coronado. The rest of the history. I graduated from SEAL class 185 from SEAL training, and I retired from SEALs in 2011.
How was your experience going through BUD/S? Especially, I mean, I find it funny that when you asked to come to America, you're like, I don't want to be cold. I want to send me to someplace tropical, and then you
get that. Well, but by this time, it is, you want to serve, and you know that when you serve, you'll be asked to do things and live in places that you might not enjoy it per se, but it didn't really matter to me. The thing is, like, I thought when I got my orders to BUD/S, right, I thought that it's like a prison time. So you go for 6 months, you get out isolated, and they would just pound that SEAL thing in you behind the bars. So I say, I'm not worried about bars and fences. I lived in the communist prison. But what about my wife? But then I find out that, you just like, you go there, you train hard, sometimes day and night, but eventually find the time, just go and get the rest and go spend time with your family, get the weekends off. And so for me, I was like, holy shit, I can live like that, that's perfect. So that the big stress that, I may lose my wife at the time, and a newlywed wife was very stressful for me. But I still say, well, what will happen will happen. This is what I will do. And it happened to be not so bad, because I was able to go and see, come back to home on the weekends.
Yep.
And so that was not so bad. The what challenging for me the most was not so much the Hell Week, because Hell Week is, as you know, just kicking the balls. You go in, you got out before you even know what happened. I was like, whew, that was it. I was trashed. But it was like, it was okay.
Doable.
But what really kicked my ass was the San Clemente Island, the third phase.
Oh, yeah.
Good God. That was for me like steroids, the Hell Week on steroids. You didn't sleep. You always was wet. You always was cold. And sometimes you didn't eat well, because it was December time. And if you didn't enough perfect pull-ups, you were sent to the surf, and you had to run and sprint back and forth. And most of the time, you didn't make the time, so you had to run again and again until instructor finally say, okay, you can eat it. Then you didn't eat inside in the warm place. You eat outside. So imagine, I was eating mostly outside, cold and wet.
And wet. Yep.
Yeah. But I have very fond memories of it. This is the time in the SEAL training that it's so much innocence.
That is the most innocent you'll ever be in your career. At BUD/S.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then the assignment to SEAL Team 2 came in. Jump school. The jump school was fun. Like I was poor. I never had there was no such thing in Poland like Disneyland, or the toys, the carousels, all the cool stuff, the wheels going around. So for me, there was like a Disneyland. When I went up there, and I was like, holy shit! They told me to jump off the tower on these big ropes. In the slide the rope down the bank. I was like, damn! I want to do it more. But if you do it right, they move it to the next. Yeah. So I just like, I need to fuck it up so I can do it more of it. So I was jumping out like, woohoo! So you don't scream and you don't wave your hands and legs like that. So after 2-3 times, they send me back to another thing. But by this time I had I don't remember, maybe like 800-900 skydives. Wow. So I maybe 1,000. I don't remember. But anyway, I had a lot of skydives. By this time, when I joined the military, I was teaching skydiving. I was AFF jump master. accelerated free fall jump master. So for me, there was like a Disneyland. There's nothing to learn about the jumping, but also I find out there was a stage where you are required to stand shoulder to shoulder, right? Stay shoulder to shoulder next to the guys, like a line of the guys. Then you step on the podium, you grab this thing, you hang on it, and the other student pulls you down there's a line, like a sliding line.
Yeah.
Right? And you hang on, and then you let it go to PLF. I was always scared to do PLFs. But what I find out, when you stay so tight, when you enter the end of the line, like my time came to step on this podium, grab that thing, I just tipped the people on my side. And it was funny as shit, because like there's tick, 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 and then usually the last guy just like, they were standing straight, they just fall down or tripped. It's like like a domino effect. I thought it was funny as shit. So I did that. But my problem in jump school was the PLS. I was always scared of those PLFs. I just couldn't do it. I was afraid of it. So I remember in the first jump we did, it was fun. I love it. I love jumping. But when I had to land I jumped square parachutes before. So for me, just landing was like super nice and it's soft. That thing slam you like a sack of shit on the ground.
Line.
Yeah, dope on the rope. This is what we call it.
So PLF is, for the listeners, right? What does that stand for?
Parachute landing fall.
Parachute landing fall. It's a proper way to land under a static line parachute, so you don't break anything.
Right, because it brings you down so pretty fast.
Yeah.
So this is the safest way to do it. But I just couldn't do it. I was scared of it. And then on the first jump, I dislocated my shoulder. So I was like, I'm not doing that freaking PLF. So I just stood up. They hated me for that too. So I landed, I stood up on my feet, and I started rolling this thing, and those black hats or whatever.
The black hats, yeah.
Yeah, PLF, private PLF. There's like screaming from far away, it's PLF. So I'm holding this parachute here. Oh, okay. So I throw the parachute aside and roll on the ground and say, yes, your PLF here. And I didn't do PLFs. I was doing stand-up landing. Eventually, I'll learn how to do it, but until that time, I was scared of it and didn't do it. So that was the thing. Then I showed up in SEAL Team 2. The welcome to SEAL Team was the old times, the old ways of doing it.
Were you in SEAL Team 2 at Taco?
No, Taco was SEAL Team 7.
7, okay.
And so that was before Taco time, I think. Before Taco joined the Navy. Rest in peace, brother. I mean, that's how we lost you, but you still
on our hearts.
Still in our hearts. He still lives with us.
Still say your name.
You will still say your name. Yeah, this is important because, they are no longer with us, but they are still alive in our minds, in our hearts. We still think, we still see them, walking around. Like I see Taco, blowing the doors, blowing windows up there in Iraq, getting these goddamn terrorists. So I still say this. He's still alive in my mind. So what we must not allow for these guys to die again by fading from our memories.
Yep.
We just must calling their name, must remember, must think about them, because this is how they live now. They live in us. They live in our memories. So checking the SEAL Team 2, there was the old welcome. Today, I think they would call it hazing, but there was just a welcome to SEAL teams. Yeah. So I had to show up. The first thing is like I'm still the best dress blue, right? Because you want to show up, it's the best way. Your polished shoes and everything. So by the time the day was over, my uniform was all torn up, and my shoes were the thing were falling. From
chloroform.
Yeah. Because as soon as I got away from the Master Chief and CEO's offices, because they've check-in, show up on this outside the quarterdeck. I was thrown on the pull-up bars, making full PT. I did the full PT test, pull-ups, sit-ups, and I'm a dress blue uniform. So I'm doing all this shit. They took me to the back door so the commander didn't see it, and sent me on this 3-mile time run where we actually did the PT tests when we do. So it has to be actually funny view for other people from outside is that dude with the hat, full dress blue, hauling us to the on the base to the streets, because we ran along the street, like pretty busy street up there on the base.
Yeah,
so people looking and say, "What's this crazy guy running?" It's like madman to this thing. So by the time they finished with me, I had to just go and buy new uniform, and I did. So it continues as a new guys. We usually just get
welcome to the teams.
Welcome to the teams. But I think there's kind of like character checking too. It's like I didn't expect any better, so I thought it was normal, and I just rolled with it. I was fine with it, and yeah, eventually I deployed. I came back from deployment, and then I was dishing out the new guys coming in.
Now it's my turn.
Yeah, that was my turn. Eventually, it got curtailed. Now it's still it's kind of welcome to the teams, but it's more civilized. It's more like hey, what's up?
It's a little bit softer.
A little bit softer. Yeah, There's still some of the
There's some pros and cons to it.
Yeah, but this is how I ended up in the SEAL teams. And,
what was your first deployment like?
First deployment as a new guy, I was basically do that, man. Do that. And like all of us, all the new guys.
Sure.
So everything that needs to be done, but there wasn't, the older guys didn't like to do it, they sent us to do it. And we did it. I learned a lot, but also I learned that my language skills were not, I think, up to speed. So I think normally people like this would be removed from SEAL teams. I think they seen something in me that they decide to keep me. But when you come back from deployment, right, you apply for schools. So I want to go to sniper school. I want to go that school, dive school. Everybody was going to the school. So they asked me, what school did you get? It's like, English 101. They actually sent me to English school. So I spent, like these guys before the new platoon being formed up. So after my first platoon, we just went up there and get my. They were honing their sniper skills. They were honing their, diving skills, skydiving skills, instructor skills. I was honing my English, and so I remember walking across the base. I had to walk to the learning center. So the bus with the guys living said, Drago, where are you going? I said, English 101. I showed the book of guys like, but that saved my career as a SEAL, because then my English actually did improve. But before the school, the English school, because remember, I learned English by myself. I never went to school to learn proper English. So those were actually my first school. English school was on base, and so then my English improved, and I became proficient. But until this time, I had to translate in my head. So as we are going from room to room, like doing the CQC, I say like clear left, clear right. I say okay, clear left. That means in Polish this, and then when I had to say something too, I had to say in Polish in my mind. And I say call it in English. So I was fast enough that people didn't notice that as quick, but they noticed that I'm kind of slow. But yeah, it was still doable. But once I finished that English school, they became so much easier for me. That was so that became smooth. That was like, and I still have a problem. So this is why people are laughing, because when I was in Iraq, I'm more known for many things. There for breaching, for my new charges that I designed, but I'm mostly known too for the invention of Drago's accelerated English course for terrorists. So they that's my motto, the call sign. What do you call it? This like the
Call sign.
Yeah, call sign was the give me 10 minutes with terrorist who doesn't speak English, and he will speak English better than I do when I'm after my course. So it did happen, we had the as you know, the first thing, no English, mister, no English. Well, let me teach you. And then I would say, give me like 10 minutes, just leave me here. So I have to say, me and Tage were, because most of the time, because we were big guys at the time. I'm not as big now, but we were big guys, me and Tage. And we were always, most of the time after the mission was over, after we took down the target. So my collateral mission was, task was prisoner handlers. So we basically were hauling those bastards out of target. So sometimes, over the shoulder and around to the Humvee, throw down the Humvee and go with them. So there was always no English, mister. And it's like, well, let's see. And I tell you, so me and Tage very often were musing like, dude, after you apply your Drago's accelerated English course for terrorists, that dude speaks better English than you do. So I was like, holy shit, yeah, it is. Even I was like musing that, fuck, I was jealous sometimes of the English of these guys. They acquired the skills thanks to my my course for terrorists. So yeah.
Hey, well, one of the stories that I've heard, coming up is when you deployed to Iraq, I think with Team 2, or it could have been Team 4 at the time, and they rotated back and you stayed
Oh, yeah, they
with
left
the
me.
Grom. They left you
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Well, I think that what happened is like they didn't. I was in the middle of deployment. We were deployed to South America with SEAL Team 4, and then I got a call in the middle of deployment and say, "Hey, Drago, we need you in Baghdad. I want you to pack your shit and just haul your ass to Baghdad because you're gonna get new orders, cat, and." You go to Baghdad because there is a Grom working. They speak Polish language, but not many of them spoke English. Now every Grom operator speaks. Actually, they speak better English than I do. So because they have the proper school and stuff, every Grom operator now is required to speak English, and they do speak English. They speak 4 or 5 languages. These guys, so that was easy for them to learn.
Put your accelerated language program to the work.
No, not with these guys. Actually, they were helping me apply the accelerated English course to terrorists. For terrorists, but they didn't speak English at the time very well. So they sent me there to facilitate, to be liaison. As you can see, my English still. I need Drago accelerated course for terrorists myself, I guess. So they sent me there to help integrate these guys with us, and so that's like double dipping. I was going on DA missions with them and with our guys, so it was like pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I loved it. But like my command didn't call me, so they I was told that since Drago, you were 3 months on deployment here in South America, you go for another 3 months to Baghdad, help to start this process, and then come back to another platoon. The normal 6-month cycle that we were on, and. So I say, I was like, SEALs are aggressive guys, right? We all are aggressive. So all these guys like, what the fuck, Drago is getting all these cool deals. I want to go to war. I want to go. Every single guy wants to go. Every single SEAL I know wants to go to war. Well, maybe not these guys that you had experience with, that they were not so. I remember hearing like, well, that they were not so eager to go into. Some of them.
Some of them.
That's the first time I heard about something like this.
They don't represent the.
They don't represent the community. Yeah. So they say, okay, well, I say 6 months. I say, cool, awesome. At least 3 months, kicking ass, kicking doors, and 3 months nobody called me. Nobody says anything. The platoons and the SEAL team actually rotates. The new SEAL team comes in with their own SEAL platoons. The platoons rotate. Like nobody say anything. I stayed too. Apparently they call. They did call my command. Maybe they say like, hey, we need Drago for a longer time. I never heard from them. For me, it was like, well, they don't say nothing. I say nothing. I enjoy what I do, and I will stay here as long as I can. So, and so then so 3 months passed, nothing. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. I don't hear nothing. So I just like, the SEAL platoons are rotating. I'm just staying there. 8 months, 9 months. And it's like my night vision broke. So by this time, it is such, when you stay that long in this environment, the normal life, your family, your everything. I didn't have a family at the time. My divorce was going on, but all the good stuff about America, it fades.
Yeah,
it becomes like your dream. It's like a fairy tale. Sometimes you think about it, and you almost see it as a Snow White fairy tale, but the real life is right there. That's what you live in. That's what you see. That's what you experience. And sometimes you think about the good things that are so unreal at the time that at least that was for me.
Yeah.
So eventually my night vision broke down, and I had to call SEAL Team 4, say, hey, can you send me new night vision? There's like, well, they thought that first the new guys in the armory where I called, they thought I'm just Iraqi terrorist, maybe trying to elicit some gear. So they offered me not only night vision, but also suicidal bomb vest if I wanted one. so of course I said, I'll kill you, motherfucker, when I get up there. And well, it was clear up very quick. The Master Chief came online, said, hey, Drago, how are you doing? I said, great, where are you at? Baghdad, how long? It's like going 9 months, like a year on deployment. Crickets. Okay, hold on, let me get EXO online. So EXO comes online and say, Drago, you need to come back because we are to deploy again. so you need to come back, we deploy with your SEAL platoon. And so I say, yeah, okay. So there's no way for me to wiggle out of that. So I had to come back. So I came back. Actually, this funny story too, because when I came back, it was like on the weekend. And we, in the military airports, like the one in Norfolk gets shut down, I guess, because like there's no flights at the time there were. So they shut down. I came back in the late afternoon, not late, in the afternoon, and went to the checkpoints where what do you call it, when you cross the border.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they check my gear stuff. They asked me if I have any ride. There's a few military guys with me. Their family picked them up. I said, no, just put on the curb. I have a truck coming to pick me up, and I will just go and I'll be out of your way. So they helped me carry stuff, all the cruise boxes, everything I had on deployment when I came back from Iraq. It came with me. So I'm just sitting with this all bombs, grenades, and all that stuff. I mean, bombs, the guns. So but I have all my gear, all my equipment on the curb. And, this is the first time they hit me. It's like, I'm safe. I'm just like that. I'm back home. I'm back in America. And I fell asleep. So I was so relaxed, just slow. And then what woke me up was like the zzz, zzz, the light, the buzzing light, the street light.
The street light?
Above. I'm fucking shivering. I'm just cold like shit. And it's like, dude, my phone is dead. Of course, that phone was out of service for over a year. So there's no there anymore. I have nobody to call. And I'm about to freeze, go hypothermic because nobody showed up. So I'm like, what do I do? I bang on the door. Maybe somebody is there. Everything is dark at the side of the airport. I say, do I need to run a few miles around maybe to the civilian airport? I think I have a better way. I just take this concrete encasement for the garbage can. It's like that big, So I just picked it up, about to heave it. I guess I was on the camera because this guy runs up, say, no, don't do that. He's just like, what do you want? I say, I need a phone. I'm freezing and I'm about to die. So he says, okay, let me go. And I say, let me in. I call the quarterdeck, and they're like, well, we don't have anybody scheduled. I say, let me talk to her. First, they didn't want to talk to me. They thought I'm just like, dude, somebody with fucked up accent. So but they eventually call OED. He comes in. I can feel shuffling the papers. Yeah, I thought I seen the comms somewhere about your return. And they're like, I am so sorry. We are sending track right now. I see it right here. We missed it. So they sent the track. They drove me back to the SEAL team. There was a guy, the tech came. I really like this guy who picked me up. So he drove me. They took my gear. We stowed our guns and everything that I needed to stow away. And then we left. Before we left the SEAL Team 4, I snatched the keys to the pickup truck because I said, I don't have a truck, so maybe I'll just need a truck. I didn't know why I did it, but I did it, and it saved me for more trouble because when he shut down the door at the SEAL Team 4 at the time, we had a code, which I didn't know at the time. It changed, but I wouldn't remember anyway after a year, and with my mind being so fucked up from these breaching explosions and stuff. So I asked him, hey, let me back in because I need to go to sleep somewhere. He's like, oh, no, we can't do that. You SEALs are no longer allowed to sleep in the cages. Because, it's like so many guys, they got divorced or got some problem with the wife.
That was a place of respite. Like, hey, I got nowhere else to go. I'm going to the cage.
I'm going to the cage, to the SEAL team, and I just stay there. So he said, you cannot do it anymore now. There's new communication, the new things came out. You can't sleep anymore in the cages. And he just took off and left. I said, fuck, what do I do now? So I tried to match that. There's like a bunch of those pickup trucks parked in front of the SEAL Team 4. I just finally got the key to the right track. So now, what do I do now? Well, I cannot go to hotel. The girlfriend broke up with me, so she doesn't want to see me. She knows because I was already divorced. I already had a girlfriend at the time, but that fell apart when I was in Iraq. She just said, "Well, there's too long wait. I'm not going to wait." I was supposed to go for 3 months, and we were supposed to get married. Actually, I was thinking about getting married, but so 3 months later, I'm still not back. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months later, she just wrote me a letter that say the email that, hey, 3 months was okay, I could understand. 4 months, well, maybe maybe a little, 5 months, but 6 months, this is not the lifestyle for me. I'm going out with somebody. She was honest about it. She was not bad. She said, I'm going out with somebody else for the Christmas party and this and this. And so she's gone. So I have no place to go. But so I'm thinking like, okay, let's regroup. I'm hungry like a motherfucker. So I'm going to go get the money. I had only like $20 left as the divorce left me kind of not very rich. So I pulled the money out, $20. What could I eat for $20? Not much. But that is my favorite spot. I mean, my wife, Rachel, she can tell you, I have a big affinity for IHOP. I know you guys,
Yes.
but I love IHOPs. I love the crepes. The crepes is like my mom's crepes. They have a cheese blintz. I think they don't have, they have to call it differently now, but that was a cheese blintz. So I say, I go to IHOP, get some meat, and then regroup. They make a plan and something. And so I went to IHOP, had a cheese blintz, coffee, and I felt so good. That smell, fresh food, coffee, so different from Iraq or from the combat zone, where it smells usually that very different. And then, and I just like say, well, I'll just melt for a second. I just enjoy the being here, being so safe, being so, like there's no threats. And I fell asleep, and there's guy came in I look, it's a security guard, like a cop after the hours. He said, hey, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just like fell asleep. Do you mind if I stay a little bit longer? I just buy more food if I need to. I didn't have the money. I spent it on cheese blintz and coffee. But he said, well, he said, but if you don't cause any problems, you can stay here, it's okay. But by the way, the bitch kick you out? I was like, what is he talking about? Like, what? Oh, yeah. It's okay if I stay here. Then he said, yeah, it's okay. So the Navy truck was parked on the back of the IHOP, and I was sleeping in the IHOP. So my first night after a year deployment and coming back from combat was
sleeping
in
IHOP.
In IHOP, yeah.
The American dream.
The American dream, yeah. But it was actually cool. Again, I want to stress out this thing that the second I landed on American soil, with this 10 German Phoenix in my pocket and bag of clothes, I was not in any more disadvantage than any other poor kid in America, because everything was available to me, like to these kids. And I know stories, some of our SEALs, like Ed Heiners. God, this guy was, I think, born in the mountains and poor as it can be. He fought his ways too. He was a street fighter. He was doing things that you would think like, and look at him now. I mean, he made his way. He was even more disadvantaged than I was when I landed in America. And he is a Navy SEAL officer, commander. So Ed, if you listen to this, my respect to you. You need to write your story, because your story is extremely inspiring.
Iron Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a remarkable human being.
Yes, yes, he is. So I really would like to read his book and his story. But again, so I think he was even more disadvantaged than I was when I landed in America. In America, you can be whatever you are able to be. There is nothing to stop you. There is nothing, no rules, regulation that tell you because you came from different place or you were born in certain place or you did not belong to certain party, you cannot do that. Only this is so normal. And another thing, what amazes me is the goodness of American people and goodness in America. America was built on personal freedom, on the goodness of people. And think about it. This is so transparent because it is so ingrained in American society to be good that it is transparent. Like for most Americans I talk to, it's like, well, this is the way we are. What's the big deal? It's normal. It's just that's how way America is. Being good, being supportive, being helpful to other people, being compassionate. But it is not normal.
Yeah,
No, it is not normal anywhere else in the world. It is normal in America. This is why people don't dwell on it. When I'm talking to it, it's so transparent to many of them. They do it because this is the right thing to do because this is the way America is. But so from inside, you're just American. But from outside is so much compassion. Watching it from outside by outsider, so much good things that that America represents. That is just.
That's why they call it the land of opportunity.
Land of
you
opportunity.
can come here and you can be whatever you want to be as long as you have a strong
There's
work
nothing to
ethic.
stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah, only in America. That's why it's worth fighting for. It is worth fighting for. It is worth to preserve the America the way it is. So it is still that beacon of freedom, beacon of opportunity to entire world, and that's why what I think is great, and I am so honored to live in America, to call myself American. And that's another thing too I would like to mention. People always say, wow, you are Navy SEAL, the trident, that means so much. You did accomplish so much and being Navy SEAL. But, this is not my biggest accomplishment. And I'm so proud of being Navy SEAL. I'm so proud of the contribution I made in the war and the things that I did in the war. But this is not the most proud thing I did. That was bestowed on me. The most proud thing, what I cherish the most is being called American, being American citizenship, basically the same rights like you have, I have. I am American now. So I'm not Polish American. I'm not something hyphen American. I am American. And, there's something nobody can take away from me. So that's what's so precious. And that flag, the American flag, you don't see me wearing trident on my suit, on my lapel tridents, like some people do, and they deserve. They can. That's perfectly okay. I just don't, because I don't want anything to distract from American flag. I'm American, and that flag encompasses everything that is good, and also encompasses the SEAL trident. So is on the top.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh!
So you finished off. You did Team 2, Team 4. I know you became a BUDS instructor, second phase for a while.
And then I became software engineer. So then again, I met my wife too. So when I was in SEAL teams, when I went as a BUDS instructor, I was already 40, going 48. I was like upper 40s. I had no families at the time. I came back from war, basically. I came back from war, and so there was no way to try to make some relationships right in Iraq, kicking doors, kicking ass, blowing shit up. So I came back, and then I said, how do I find family? How do I create family now? And the fellow teammates, where do I turn? I turned to my brothers. SEAL teams became my family. I didn't have other family at the time. That was my fellow SEALs, SEAL teams. That's all I knew and I had at the time. So when they, who I asked, I said, SEAL teams. So how do I go? Dude, you need to go online. You find any chick you want up there, and you will do good. So didn't work too well at the beginning. The girls usually they'd show up. They didn't show up. They didn't look like the way they portrayed themselves. And I had even
got catfished a couple times.
Oh yeah, I had it quite a few times. I remember that one of the drastic things was I was courting a girl. She looked so beautiful in these pictures. I was like, I fell in love, and and she was from San Diego, so where I was, right? So I was like, why she doesn't want to meet with me? So I coerced her eventually after maybe 3 months of, courting her. So we're gonna meet. I was so excited. I told all the guys, I was like, hey, I'm going to date and stuff. And so we choose to meet by the, I think Horton Plaza. I don't remember. It was a coffee shop. There were a bunch of offices around. So to look smarter, I took book with me, so I'm sitting at the table waiting for her, and every time nice, beautiful girls show up, I'm trying to get bigger, trying to read the book, don't pay attention, waiting for her to come up to the table, but none of them did. There was all these beautiful girls just lying up, just buying coffee and leaving. So I'm just okay, it was 5 minutes past. I was waiting, I was so eager, so I was 15 minutes earlier. And finally, I look at the door, and there is a chick walking by, but she couldn't fit to the door. She actually goes sideways to the door. So I'm just and there's a long line of these beautiful girls waiting, the tables are along the line. And I'm sitting in one of them, two people table. And that thing rolls in. And that's not her. So I just relax, So, but I can see the shadow comes up and stops. I look it up. I say, oh my God. and I hear, "Are you Thomas?" It's like, yeah, yes. And these chicks are like looking at it, like pretty curious. And so she sits down, the whole chair. So I'm like, damn. So I tried to make it like a business meeting, right? Because I tried to save my face. So I say, so, well, Lori, whatever her name was, so how many employees do you have in your place? I didn't come to talk about my job. I'm here on the date. We have a date. I was like, damn. It's like, these chicks start laughing now, just like you can see the giggling there. I say, date. Okay. So, I was trying to be polite, trying to be nice. So we talk. And so I say, okay, but now I just try to get away as fast as I can. So slowly, as fast as I could, say, well, I need to go back to work. And it was a lunchtime. And so, thank you for, having the lunch with me. And can you give me a ride? I'm parked on the other side of the mall. I was like, okay, well, I'm the Jeep parked right here. So you can go into my Jeep. I'll give you the ride. That was nice. It was polite. So I walked to my Jeep. I opened the door and damn, this thing cannot climb into the Jeep. She cannot get in. She's trying to back in. She's not big enough. So she tries to jump. She almost falls down. Then she tries to put the leg in it. She almost falls down. So she grabs her leg. Her legs were as big as my chest. So she grabs her leg. She tries to throw it into the Jeep. That didn't work. So she looks at me and say, I walk. You walk with me? It's like, no. Thank you. So she called me later. Hey, how was the date? It's okay. Can we meet again? I was like, hey, listen, Lori. You totally misrepresent. I was nice, polite. You totally misrepresent yourself. You send me all these nice pictures and stuff, and that's not you. And then you show up, and you don't look even like that. You don't even act like what I understood you well. So no, I prefer not to meet again. And so, unfortunately, and then eventually I met, there's another story, I met Rachel, my current wife. So we are dating at the time already. And, in BATS, I was a second phase instructor. During pool competence tests, you don't come out of the pool most of the time. You just rotate the students, you test them. So we have students cooking for us on the edge of the pool. Yep. They answer our phones and everything. So my phone rings, and I said, student picks it up. I was like, and he says, Instructor Drago, you have a message sent. So I take the message, say, big tits. I was like, damn. So I call Rachel. I say, Rachel, don't send your boobs to here, your breast, to me, especially when I'm at work. Everybody sees it here, all the students. I was like, who sent you a tits? Who is that person who sent you a tits? Because I was like, damn, so now I'm in the double whammy. I thought it was Rachel.
You're in the doghouse now.
Yeah, now I'm in the doghouse. I say, she's going to fire me from being a boyfriend. I'm really scared. So I tried to explain it to her, but I think she accepted my explanation. But then I show every team guy, every instructor, hey, look at these tits. That's not my wife. That's not my girlfriend. That's some other one. So yeah, we did. And then, but so eventually I met Rachel, and when I met Rachel, there was like, I met this beautiful chick online, but I was like very cautious. All these things that happened to me. Yeah. I said maybe another catfish. So but on the picture she looks so good. She looks so beautiful. She was so smart, and she wrote something. So I went to her. She went back to me, and then so I had this time I say I cannot fuck it up. If I start writing this shit, she will fire me. She will not meet with me. So I had team guys writing letters, love letters for me. And
no one better qualified than the team guys.
But it worked, so she liked it. And then funny, but even they got tired. Say, like, Drago, look, we sent you like, I don't know, hundreds of those. There's so many of these love letters. So all you need to do right now, just copy and paste. And just pick the chapter or pick the things that you want. You send it, and it will be okay. We're standing by. We'll help you. So I say, okay. And that's my first unassisted letter, and I copy and paste from those different letters that were sent out to Rachel, and I send it out to her, and like quiet, and then her profile disappears. Like, what the fuck? I was waiting for the letter back, and just like nothing came. Her profile disappeared from the dating site. So I ran up to one of the guys, say, dude, I sent her this letter, and I think I'm scared. I think I fuck it up. He just read this like, dude, you did fuck it up. It looks like there's no coherence in it. You are incoherent, and you are like drunk. So I say, fuck, I'm like in the morning, sad. I say, what do? I fucked up now. I think I'm to square one. I need to start over looking over again. And then her profile showed up again, like maybe like 2 weeks later or a week later. So I just jumped on it, and that's like, I basically begged her into calling me, send my phone number, just call me, just call me. I have something very important, just call me. Well, she wants to call me. So I was when there was the first, was like the phone call was, what do you call it? That like no caller's ID. So
Yeah.
So I think that could be her. I answered, I hear her, and she said, hey, this is Rachel. I'm just calling you, and so. And I was so excited. I tried to talk, try to explain everything. She's like, quiet. So like, oh, so I got it. You just don't speak English. I thought you were drunk and you were on drugs. So I canceled my account because I asked her what. So basically, she canceled her account after my letter. Because it was fucked up, and she thought I'm just fucked up too. Yeah. The only reason we are together today, the only reason we we could reconnect is because the dating side felt so sorry for her, what I did to her. Basically, what the experience she had was so awful, apparently, what they understood, that they gave her 30 more free days on the dating site. So she said, well, okay, I try maybe with different guys. So she showed up, and then I
found you.
Yeah, and then she understood that that's not being fucked up. It's just my English was fucked up. So that, and I owe so much to the team guys at the time. Like I didn't have clothes. I didn't know how to dress very well. And here we go. It's like finally we went up to, like, we were invited to the Hollywood party paid by the Hollywood, like, big wig stuff. So we all showed up there, and this old lady all wrinkled up, and opened the door, and she's like, oh, okay, come on in. And she looked at me. It's like, wait, who is that? I say, okay, he's with us. So like, you guys need to leave right now. This is not drug party. This is not bomb party. We are serious here. So you just need to leave. And they she shut the door. She kicked us out. So I felt sorry for my guys. It's like, dude, so I just go to the bar. You just go up there. I'm sorry. Because when she looked at me, I think I looked like a bum. Because I wore the jeans and t-shirt. That's all I had. And I wore it for like a long time. So they didn't look good. so they I said, like, I go to, I just go to the bar. You guys go up there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go fuck you up like this. And they like, nah, there I go. Fuck this old lady. We go to bar together. So we went partying. But, so when they see my challenges, like in Iraq, it was so easy life. You had a uniform and just put it on.
Yep.
You look fancy, you put uniform. You don't want to look fancy, you put uniform. And so Joe Lambert, hey, Joe will be here. Cheers, brother. Right. Yeah, and he said, you cannot look like a dude from the 70s. You look like a Cheech and Chong, whatever that movie was like. you just like 70s guy. Let's get you a clothes. So he actually took me to the store. I was buying.
That's
but
awesome.
He just bought me jeans, clothes, things. And dude, when I put these clothes on, I was like, fuck, there's no chick that can resist me now. I'm like a Casanova, or some like and I was so excited. Yeah, so the guys helped me a lot, and this is how I get my clothes, and start wearing actually proper clothes and stuff. And so SEAL teams and team guys took care of me, and I never forget that.
And then you started dating Rachel. You guys met up.
Yeah. The first time I met her, actually, and again, we talk already by this time. We stuff, and we wrote the letters, and she already knew that I don't write very well. So even if I wrote something with messed up English, she kind of understood, because she had a certain mental picture of me, and she knew that I'm not fucked up. Yeah. So she, when she was coming first to San Diego, I took swim buddy with me. It was, anyway. So I don't remember. So I took another team guy with me and said, "Hey, you look, and if she's not sure who she is, you bail me out. You just go tell her something I have to deploy or whatever. And I would just run.
Yeah.
But now, just in case that she is what she was, so I bought the flowers. But I say, I don't look like a goofy running. If she's not, she is running away with the flowers, and trying to get away. So I left the flowers in the Jeep. And so we are waiting. And so I think he recognized her first because I was sharing the pictures. Look, I'm dating this girl and stuff. And I was so proud. And so he goes, hey, that's your chick. I say, yeah, fuck yeah, that's her. He said, dude, she's so young. How did you pull this off? How did you rob the cradle? I was like, dude, you were writing the love letters, and I just lied about my age. That worked. So he said, like, okay, dude, you're on your own. You're good. So she's hot. So he left, and I was so stressed out. I was so scared, brother. I don't think I was scared in combat like this. I didn't want to do. It was like my one time changed my life to have a family. That's the way I thought. So Steve, I just woke up and stick my hand and say, hey, I am Drago. And she say, okay, I shake your hand, but I didn't fly across the United States to shake your hand. Give me a hug. I was like, holy shit, I melted. I was like, yeah, I gave you a big Drago hug, Then we walked to my Jeep, and I was still so scared. I didn't know what to talk about, I was like, I would look like a moron because I'm scared even to talk. And but I stick the flower up, and I was so stressed. I was still wrapped up in the paper, and I was like, hey, I have it for you here. So she took this flower like upside down too. Because it's like, just easy to carry this way, right? It just hangs down. So she unwrapped it. She threw the paper in my Jeep, threw it upside down. She grabbed my hand. She put the hand, okay, try it again. It's like, okay. And then, rest of the story. But dude, I was scared. But so then, we were dating. And actually, the funny, because we were already good to go. I mean, I was totally in love. I was like, I couldn't see a wall behind her. And so I had to say, well, I'll just ask the question, the big one. But so I started reading about all these rings, how to buy the ring. Yeah. I start making the places like go to Cancun, and like I cannot go to Cancun. I don't have money, so go to the restaurant, like nice restaurant, do some like fancy stuff. I don't have the money, so I figured I just do the COA. So I got like a bunch of our guys, Mikey Mo.
Oh, Mikey, brother. Yeah.
I said, Mikey, I need some help. There was other guys, so a bunch of everybody was on board with it. So we took her to an island. And I say, okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to line up all the guns that SEALs are using, each one of the type of guns. And she would just go from gun to gun. And the last gun, I figured out that on the last gun, I will just go the tray. When you open the tray, I'm going to hang the ring. What do you call this? The engagement ring. Yeah, I will hang the engagement ring on the string, and on the bolt, I lay down the "Marry Me" with the big marker, just the same marker, same like I wrote the dedication in your book. So I wrote "Marry Me," and then I was like, "Fuck! If she opens the tray or slams it, she will screw my." I spent so much money on this nice ring, I was trying to get the best ring I could afford. So I didn't want her to go and fuck it up, just slam the tray. But we told her, you're going to put the ammo, you're going to lay the tape on the top of it, you're going to shut it down, you can shoot. So we went from every gun, from gun to gun to gun. She did really good. I mean, she demolished the targets like a pro. So I was like, even more. It's like, hey, that's extra bonus. And we went to the last gun, and I was just like knew on another side, like by her, because if she tried to slam it, I just put my hand in it so she doesn't destroy the ring, right? But so she opened this thing, and this ring popped up hanging. She just picked it up, so she grabbed it, and there was a "Marry Me" laying on the bowl with a thick letters written down, a piece of paper. So she picked this thing, and she said yes. And actually, I have it on the video. And I have the pictures. Actually, the pictures will be posted on my site.
That's got to be one of the coolest proposal stories.
Well, that was I didn't have the money. If I could afford going to Cancun or some like super nice places, I would take her there. But I'm still. I'm done. We are not rich people.
Yeah.
But
So
you know what, Drago? It's the thoughtfulness behind it. It's the intention.
I'm
Like,
still.
it's-
So guns are my life, and
Yeah.
so I just like introduction.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, welcome to my life, and it worked. So we are married now. We have 2 kids together. Now she's 15 years old, Gracie.
Wow.
And we have 13 years old Dorian. Gracie is riding horses, played drums, violin, and she was reading books when she was 3.5. Books like this. She was reading 3.5. She was reading books, and I couldn't believe. I was asking her questions, and she was telling me what she was reading. And we have a Dorian. He's a gymnast. He's awesome guy. He's strong, and I think future warrior. So our life our life is full now, and. I'm living my American dreams, and thank you for America. Thank you to America, because that would never happen if not America and people like you.
And you two created the Navy SEALs Fund.
Yes, this is a little bit Navy SEALs Fund we created in 2009, and right away, the Duke Harbin, Duke brother, you are instrumental in this organization. He became first president. So I remember we visited Duke to talk about it, what can be done. So Duke, it's like, hey, so what's your funds now? We just spent a lot of money on the guys who were prosecuted for giving the fat lip to terrorists. So I say, wow, Duke, I have like $800. He says, okay, dude, we start with $100. We need to make it big. We need to make it strong. We need to bring the funds in. And he did. He is the guy who actually created the Navy SEALs Fund with his heart, his organizational skills, and many other team guys that came on board.
Yep.
And now Bob Guzzo is president of Navy SEAls Fund.
I went to Bud's with his son.
His son, yes.
Bob.
Rest in peace,
Rest in
Rob.
peace, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we are very strong, and we do not have paid positions. So there's nothing wrong with strong, big organization having paid positions, but I think this is like my proud thing to, not to have paid positions. And we do extremely well. So almost like 99% of the funds coming in is being dedicated to the mission. And so we don't have overhead.
What is the mission?
First of all, is support families of Navy SEALs, active, retired, and support their families. Then support for the Gold Star families. We are a bit different with it because we include in that support also siblings and parents, where usually organizations concentrate only on the Navy SEAL and immediate families. We include everybody. So all the parents, the children, but also siblings of the Navy SEAL. Because sometimes, our community, we are left alone by ourselves. There are people who have no families, but just the brother or sister. And usually they don't get as much support as they should, especially when they have to bury our fellow teammate. So we don't have that distinction. If you are immediate family, if you are close family to that Navy SEAL, we're gonna help you. And also the difference is between other charities. It's just like even just recently, I cannot talk details because of course the secrecy that the confidentiality that we don't want to jeopardize. But we got a call from a retiring Navy SEAL, and within 20 minutes, the help was dispatched and the situation was remediated. 20 minutes. So we are very fast to respond. We don't have a red tapes. As you know, our community is very small, and we are pretty much strict just to 5326 and SEAL officers. So we can respond very quick. We can verify the need. And if the need really exists, then we're going to send out the help immediately. And so we are very fast as well. And again, we don't have a lot of red tapes because we can verify, as you know, in your organization does. Yeah. You can verify things very quickly, and you are very effective. So I'm just hoping maybe one day we just go and start working on the same on together on the fundraiser.
Oh, for
and
sure.
things.
We're
So
going to
because
get that together. I mean, and I told you and Rachel this yesterday. We base a lot of our nonprofit and what we do off of what you guys do with the Navy SEALs Fund, because
I guess we are learning from each other now.
yeah. I mean, you guys. I mean, because
yeah.
the way you guys stepped in and helped us through our situation.
It was our moral obligation, because with the way what's happening to you, Eddie.
That right there is what you just said. Your moral obligation. There was no, nothing was going to stop.
No
you
politics.
No politics. There's, and then I'm sure there was people that were like, you shouldn't be doing this, but you did it anyways. And that's we go through the same thing too, right? It's like, as long as we're doing the right thing, we know we're doing the right thing. We have an excellent board. We all vote, and we're like, if we go through with this, we're going to catch some hate, but we are doing the right thing, and that's what we can stand behind, is and our moral obligation to help our fellow citizens.
And what you just say, this is moral courage, too, that many people, I wish more people could display. What you guys do, say, if this is the right thing, I will do. I don't care what the flag, is going to be, who is going to get offended by this. If this is the right thing to do, we will do the right thing, regardless. So that's, I respect it a lot.
Well, yeah, we respect you guys a lot, and we'll do a fundraiser together here soon. I mean, that was the goal from the get-go, and it's just time passes and everybody's busy, but we definitely want to.
That'll be perfect. Yeah, be awesome. And also, I would like to say something that the Drago stories. It was funny because sometimes, like, I hear people coming to me and telling me a story about Drago, and I don't know that I am the Drago. Yeah. And some of them I listen to it and say, "Hey, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Guy is like, "Well, kind of, yeah. I know the story because that's me." But yeah, there would not be a Drago ever if not people like you, people like Rob O'Neill, Jacko Willing, and Ed Heiner. Ryan Parrott. Ryan Parrott is another case. I would say this guy is a hero. He's hero in my book, and this. So there would be Drago if not my fellow SEALs, not you guys, and not America and not Americans like you guys. So I will be always grateful for that, and I will never forget that.
Oh well, man, I it's been such an honor for me to hear your story. It's awesome. I feel like we could go back through your story and hear so many more little.
Oh, for sure.
And I would, and possibly will, have you on again. But thank you so much for, just your patriot. Like, I consider you such a patriot, and your love for America. But also, just personally, thank you for stepping in for my friend, and doing what's right. Super appreciate you sharing the story. I hope that a lot of Americans will hear it. I hope it'll almost be a refreshing of like a love for America and who this country we have.
Let's try to keep our family values, our patriotism intact. Let's make sure that we don't lose, as America, that side, what is important. And America is that important is worth fighting for. And so I appreciate, thank you for having me here. I would like to say also thank you to the most beautiful girl in the world, is my wife, Rachel. And because the way I am today, I was not yesterday. She domesticated me. She is the one who molded me into the person, the compassionate American that I am today. So I would like to say thank you to her because I owe her so much. And she's
a remarkable person. Our wives save our lives.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
The truth,
And so same thing with Andrea. I tell you this, like, when we're in your case, when we're involved in your case, when you are still locked up by these bastards, I tell you this, I would not want to cross your wife. I would rather beat myself to death with my own fists than cross that one. She was such a fierce fighter for your cause. And you know what? That your cause it became cause of so many people.
And that's
Today, so many people will and are benefiting because they are more careful now. They cannot do that easily to other people what they did to you. But there's a lot because of your wife. She took that fight to them and she kicked their ass. She kicked them in the balls.
Oh yeah, she was a shield maiden, not just for me, but for all of our brothers out there.
Yes.
And that's the way she looked at it. That's the way I looked at it. We weren't just fighting for me and to get out of prison and to get justice. We were fighting for all of our brothers because if I was found guilty, then it was going to be a detriment to all of us who have been serving the past 20
absolutely,
years. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you, brother, dude. It has been an honor having you here.
Likewise, it was an honor to be here. Thank you.
You embody everything that America stands for, your work ethic, your loyalty, your drive, your determination, but most importantly, your compassion you have for fellow Americans, which you've talked about. And I think people can learn a lot from you, and I definitely suggest people go and pick up The Pledge to America, read it, learn from it.
Maybe write the reviews.
Yeah, write some reviews. Definitely write some reviews. Get them on there. And then we'll post where you can find it.
Bingo.
Yep.
We'll have links.
We'll have links, everything up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, brother.
It was an honor to be here on the show. I appreciate it. And maybe many more.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Drago.
Thanks.
Out.
Thank you.
Out.
How was that?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
Dude, what? I don't think I've laughed as much as I have in any of them.
No, that was great.
Drago.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, that's